Chapter 1347. Coming out of Sky Cliff City's market, Long Yu asked Liao Lele and the other two what had happened. Just as he had expected, the three of them had set up a stall to sell some pills that they had refined themselves. As Liao Lele was quite famous in the area, there were a lot of people at the stall. Not long after, they attracted the attention of the young master of the ghost bat demon race. He said that he wanted to bring Liao Lele and the other two back. Fortunately, Long Yu had arrived in time. Otherwise, Liao Lele and the other two girls would have been in trouble. Now that the Shuel Luo army was on the verge of disbanding and the management of the market was not around, no one would stand out to save them. It was not that they were unwilling, but that they could not do it. Forget about the young master of the ghost bat demon race. He had two superior ruler realm bodyguards behind him. They were not people that anyone could afford to offend. For the time being, Long Yu could only receive these people. The rest were not on the Shuel Luo planet, but had gone to the outsider's battlefield to train. From Liao Lele, Shi Yingwu, and the rest, he found out that the intensity of their training was extremely high. They were not satisfied with the requirement of once a month. When they were free, they would go out to train, completing at least 10 times a month. Although the difficulty of these training was not very high, they would often meet some outsiders. After going through these training, everyone's combat strength had continuously increased. The double increase in strength and experience allowed everyone to grow quickly. Their growth speed was not much slower than Long Yu's. This situation made Long Yu feel gratified. He then asked Liao Lele about the other two heaven-defying pills. It's about time. The Sacred Soul Heavenly Pill was just purchased, a crucial ingredient a few days ago, and should be able to be refined in the next 2 days. The 8 Extreme Blood Pill will still take a long time. I have not completely studied the refining method of such a heaven-defying pill, so I do not dare to rashly try it. Liao Lele explained the situation to Long Yu. Then you could try refining the Sacred Soul Heavenly Pill. Even if you fail, it's fine. Don't feel pressured. Long Yu smiled and said. Now, Long Yu and the others had a lot of cultivation resources in their hands. Just the absolute beginning golden pool alone was priceless. Therefore, a heaven-defying pill was not considered too amazing. If the refinement failed, Long Yu wouldn't be too distressed. He was just afraid that Liao Lele would feel pressured. In any case, now that Liao Lele had reached the level of soul integration with the Misery Sea Cauldron, he could definitely be regarded as one of the few high-end alchemists in the territory of the human clan and the monster clan. In the human and demonic beast territories, there weren't many alchemists who could refine heaven-defying pills, not to mention that Liao Lele was currently only at the Emperor's level. Once she stepped into the Sovereign Realm, her chances of refining heaven-defying pills would be even higher and more stable. At that time, Liao Lele would truly be an alchemy grandmaster. Now that he had the alchemy department, all that was left was the weaponsmith department. Long Yu thought of this. Although everyone else had gone out to train, Wei Yuyin, the weaponsmith, should still be in Sky Cliff City. He had to bring her along. If he wanted to develop the Void Galaxy, talents were indispensable. At the very least, among the people that Long Yu knew, Wei Yuyin was the only one who knew how to refine an unbounded weapon. Therefore, Long Yu let Red Oriole out of his pocket dimension, and the two of them went to look for Wei Yuyin. When they arrived at the courtyard where Wei Yuyin lived, they found that the place was already empty. That old man must have heard that my brother and we are dead, so he ran away. I don't know where he went. Red Oriole gnashed her teeth in anger. There's nothing we can do. He's not on the same side as us, but I don't know when he left. Long Yu shook his head and narrowed his eyes. Since Wei Yuyin was not here, he would have to think about the refinement of the unbounded weapon. The world was vast, and it would not be easy to find out where Wei Yuyin had gone. I'll try using the secret martial arts deduction technique of the Blood Demon clan. If I can divine his whereabouts, everything will be fine. If not, it will be difficult for us to find Wei Yuyin, but to be honest, it won't be difficult to find an alchemist of his level. Red Oriole snorted, and then began to use her technique. The secret arts of the Blood Demon clan could enhance the deduction ability. Just like the light of equilibrium, it could also be applied to other people. Right now, Red Oriole had summoned Little White and enhanced the deduction ability to Little White. Little White's deduction ability was multiplied immediately. Little White was already an expert close to the level of a level 7 sovereign. Now that he had the secret technique of deduction, his deduction ability and speed were greatly enhanced. Let me do some deduction. That Wei Yuyin you mentioned might have thought that you were all dead, so she did not clean up the aura in the courtyard before she left. It shouldn't be too difficult to divine. As Little White spoke, he raised his hand to activate the power of deduction. As his power of deduction condensed, an image gradually appeared in front of everyone, horizontally above the courtyard. In the center of the image was the figure of the old man, Wei Yuyin. I didn't expect it to be so easy. It seems that he is still on the fallen blood planet. Huh, the one beside the old man. Who else could it be but Ball Soul? Little White looked at the picture and was a little surprised. Long Yu and Red Oriole shot a glance at Wei Yuyin, feeling somewhat baffled. Wei Yuyin was actually together with the Ghost Bat Demon Clan's Ball Soul. Furthermore, they were still on the fallen Bloodstar. As for their exact location, they would have to rely on Little White's calculations to find out. But now that Little White had deduced Wei Yuyin, the old man must have noticed that someone was deducing him. The next deduction would not be very smooth, especially when Ball Soul was beside Wei Yuyin. Of course, even if it was a head-on confrontation with Ball Soul, Little White would not be afraid at all. Not to mention that he had the help of Red Oriole's secret technique to compete with the old man's deduction ability. At most, it would only take a little more time. As expected, Ball Soul helped him resist my deduction ability, but the specific location is clear. He is in Sky Cliff City. Moreover, Ball Soul seems to have just received a report from his subordinates and heard about what happened in the market. He is furious. Little White narrowed his eyes and said, "That's for the best. If you have the guts, come and find trouble with us. I happen to keep that young master of the Ghost Bat Demon Clan as a hostage." Long Yu laughed. It seemed like it was only a matter of time before the two sides met. Long Yu and Red Oriole stayed here and waited for the other party to arrive. The young master of the Ghost Bat Demon Clan should still be very important, so he was not afraid that Wan Hun would not come. The three of them sat down in Wei Yuyin's original courtyard and drank some tea. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the power of spatial divine characters around the courtyard began to fluctuate, and a large group of Ghost Bat demon race demonic cultivators surrounded the courtyard. They really think highly of us, actually sending a group of 1,000 people to surround us. Ball Soul's methods are not bad. Xiaobai clicked his tongue and looked at the leader of the 1,000-man team surrounding the courtyard. At this moment, Wan Hun's face was filled with astonishment and anger. He was surprised that Little White and the others were still alive, and he was angry because Long Yu had captured the young master of the Ghost Bat Demon Clan. Ball Soul could not be bothered to get close to Little White. After all, Little White was Shuai Luo's friend, not Ball Soul's. Moreover, Ball Soul and Shuai Lei had joined forces to occupy Shuai Luo's star, so the conflict between Ball Soul and Shuai Luo had long been irreconcilable. Therefore, there was no need to maintain his demeanor and superficial politeness. There was no need. You're still alive, but since you're alive, shouldn't you celebrate? Why are you causing trouble everywhere and attacking my Ghost Bat Demon Clan cultivators? Ball Soul said in a cold tone. His eyes were like sharp blades as he stared at Long Yu. Long Yu, on the other hand, was leisurely sipping on his tea in the courtyard. Whether we live or die is our own business. Whatever your Ghost Bat Monsters clan wants to do is also your business. However, your Ghost Bat Monsters clan has offended us. Are we supposed to just sit there and not fight back? If there's a misunderstanding, we can settle it through negotiation. How about this? You release the people who captured our Ghost Bat Demon tribe, and give us some of the things you found in the foreign ruins. Then, our Ghost Bat Demon tribe will retreat immediately. We will not trouble you in Shuai Luo. Ball Soul said faintly, but what he said made people laugh. Hey, you're dreaming. Xiaobai laughed. Why should we share our things with you? In the multi-winged Demon Clan's ruins, you already escaped first and even blew up the exit, and now you want us to give you our things? What a good dream. We can give you the people, but you have to give us our people too. Long Yu continued. Wei Yin is with you now, right? Give her to us, and I will return the child to you. Otherwise, you will never see him again. Although he didn't know the identity of the child, Long Yu was sure that he was definitely an important figure in the Ghost Bat Demon clan, so he was not afraid at all when he spoke. Wei Yin, this person is a friend of mine. I can't obey you if you want me to give him to you, but believe me, if you attack our people, you will definitely regret it in the future. Even if you have a first-class honor badge, the Ghost Bat Demon clan will not let you go easily. Ball's Soul said coldly. Then let's give it a try. Long Yu didn't take the threat seriously at all. After all, he would be training in the Demigod College and would return to the Void Galaxy to cultivate after that. What could the Ghost Bat Demon clan do to him? Set up the formation, attack. Ball's Soul didn't hesitate at all. He immediately ordered the surrounding 1,000-man team to get ready to attack. If this 1,000-man team attacked, even if they were only at the Monarch level, even Xiao Bai might not be able to withstand it, not to mention that they seemed to be able to set up some kind of formation. Chapter 1348. Whitey, Long Yu, and Red Oriole were surprised to see the other party attack. They hadn't expected Ball's Soul to be so daring. Attacking a first-class honor badge holder was a provocation to the entire demon race and human army. If he didn't have some trump cards, Ball's Soul wouldn't be so daring. Be careful. It looks like the Ghost Bat Yao clan has some backing. A look of interest surfaced on Xiao Bai's face. However, he did not panic in the slightest. With a casual raise of his hand, a layer of faint light flashed beside him, enveloping him, Long Yu, and Red Oriole. Enveloped by this faint layer of light, the figures of the three people suddenly became indistinct, as if they had become illusory existences. Although they could still be seen, they seemed to be in a different space and time from the people around them. Ball Soul's army of 1,000 Ghost Bat Yao clan didn't care too much about that. They attacked the center of the army, and all kinds of offensive divine abilities were blasted through the amplification formation they had set up. Originally, they thought that with 1,000 of them working together and relying on the amplification formation, they would be able to seriously injure Whitey, who was in the 6th stage sovereign realm, even if it was 1,000 people at the same level as Emperor. However, the reality was out of their expectations. The attacks were all absorbed by the illusory bodies of the three and turned into the purest shadow, divine text power. Then, they were absorbed by the crystal ball in Whitey's hand. The crystal ball was one of Whitey's unbounded battle weapons. Combined with Whitey's illusory divine abilities, it could create an extremely powerful defense. Even the combined attack of 1,000 Ghost Bats couldn't do anything to it. Long Yu and Red Oriole were surprised. They hadn't expected Whitey to be so strong. Long Yu didn't have to take out the 9 health steal. It seemed that with Whitey around, there was no need to use a trump card like the 9 health steal. The first wave of attacks didn't work. Whitey smiled faintly. Ayaya, you guys are really weak. Is this the attitude you have when you come to ask for people? Brother Long, act according to the situation. If it really doesn't work, just kill that Ghost Bat Yao clan brat. At most, we'll fight to the death. Huh. His words made Maru Hun's face darken. He raised his hand and stopped his army of 1,000 men from continuing to attack. Originally, he wanted to intimidate Long Yu and the other two, but now he found that intimidating them was useless because the other party was really too strong. And now, Ball Soul had used up all of the outsider puppets he had refined in the ancient outsider ruins. If he really fought with Whitey, he would definitely not be a match for it. Therefore, Maru Hun knew that it was impossible to win now. You are too arrogant. Don't you know the identity of the being you have kidnapped? Ball Soul's face darkened as he asked in a low voice. Isn't he just a young master? What other identity could it be? Xiao Bai clicked her tongue and said, no matter how honorable he is to the Ghost Bat Demon tribe, in my eyes, he is just a good-for-nothing. So what if he is killed? There's no loss to me at all. Hee. Ball Soul's eyes showed a mocking look. You dare to kidnap people without knowing anything? You should know that there are 7 demigod seniors in the demon race, and one of them is the leader of the heavenly bat demon tribe. The Heavenly Bat Demon Tribe and the Ghost Bat Demon Tribe have a tradition of marriage alliance for a long time. Heavenly Bat Demon Tribe. Hearing Balsol's words, Xiaobai narrowed his eyes. He didn't know about this, but could it be that such an idiot young master has a marriage alliance with the Heavenly Bat Demon Tribe? No wonder he is so arrogant. It turns out that he has the support of a demigod. Xiaobai thought to himself, but on the surface, he did not show it. He was indifferent to what Balsol said. He stepped forward in the void, getting closer and closer to Balsol. Unknowingly, he seemed to have separated Balsol from everyone else. Because of Xiaobai's innate ancient special ability, Balsol did not realize it at all. When he realized it, he had completely fallen into the illusory world that Xiaobai had created. Whitey itself was very easy to overlook. Even when it used its techniques, it was hard for others to predict or sense it. It had already attacked stealthily, making it impossible for others to detect it. Even if it was a Balsol, at this moment, it was hit without any warning at all. The main thing was that Balsol thought that he could subdue Xiaobai and the others when he mentioned the Heavenly Bat Demon Tribe. He did not expect that Xiaobai would not be moved at all. Instead, Xiaobai used his skills on him. After trapping Balsol in the illusion, Xiaobai knew that there was no need to continue the battle. Balsol was not a match for him at all. Very quickly, Xiaobai used his skills and directly dragged Balsol into his little world, completely controlling him. Then, Xiaobai's figure appeared alone from the illusion and returned to Wei Yuyin's courtyard. The thousands of members of the Ghost Bat Demon Tribe Emperor Army were all dumbfounded and did not know what was going on. In just an instant, their leader Balsol had disappeared. What should they do? Even Long Yu and Red Oriole could not see through Xiaobai's skills. This made them think even more highly of Xiaobai. Your commander has been subdued by me. You should know that Brother Dragon has just received the first-class honor badge of the Battlefield Army. He is an important figure of the human race and the demon race. If you don't step aside, even the demigods will not forgive you for your crimes. Xiaobai stepped forward and said calmly. Now that the Orb Soul was under Xiaobai's control, Xiaobai's words were quite a deterrent. At the very least, the remaining 1,000-man legion did not dare to make any more moves. They could only watch as Xiaobai left with Long Yu and Red Oriole. Wei Yuyin was currently in Balsol's little world. Since they had captured Balsol, there was no need to waste time here. One should know that their time was very precious, especially Xiaobai. They had to return to the army headquarters in 3 days and return to the Void Galaxy before the space-time tunnel disappeared. The three of them quickly escaped from the encirclement of the Ghost Bat Demon Tribe. A third-stage Great Sovereign Realm Deputy Commander watched the three of them leave. His mouth trembled, but he did not say anything to stop them. Balsol was trapped by the other party without them knowing. It was obvious that the other party's strength was far beyond their imagination. It was undoubtedly a fool's dream to stop Xiaobai and the others now. Soon, Xiaobai and the others escaped from the encirclement and walked toward the space-time teleportation array. However, at this moment, an extremely strong pressure suddenly descended from the sky. This feeling made Xiaobai and the others' expressions change. A demigod expert. The three of them had seen demigod experts many times. They could easily distinguish the pressure of a demigod expert. A demigod has come. Is he here for us? Xiaobai's expression changed slightly. Under such circumstances, the arrival of a demigod was enough to affect the entire situation. The key was the demigod's stance. However, Xiaobai was not very worried. Even a demigod could not break the rules of the entire demon territory. Long Yu, who had a first-class honor badge, could not be touched. Little brother Long, don't worry. Even if a demigod comes, he can't do anything to you. Don't listen to Balsol's nonsense. None of the demigods are ordinary people. They won't do anything biased. Red Oriole saw Long Yu's expression change and comforted him. Really? Long Yu narrowed his eyes and asked. Of course. Red Oriole pursed her lips and smiled. Then I believe you. I won't worry. Long Yu let out a carefree laugh. At first, he was really worried that the arrival of the demigod of the Heavenly Bat Demon Clan might be harmful to him, but since Red Oriole said it, he naturally believed her. After all, Red Oriole and Xiaobai were not worried at all. They'd spent countless times more time in the demon territory than Long Yu did. Naturally, they knew the demigods of the demon race and the rules among them much better than Long Yu did. The pressure of the demigod continued descending. Above the sky, a pair of enormous white wings appeared in the clouds. The wings unfolded and blew away the clouds around. Then, a middle-aged woman with an extremely intimidating aura appeared under the wings. She swooped down from the clouds with a solemn expression and arrived before Xiaobai and the others in the blink of an eye. It was indeed a demigod. Everybody was even more certain of that when they saw him with their own eyes. However, there were 7 demigods in the demon race, and neither Little White nor Red Oriole had seen this demigod of the Heavenly Bat Demon Clan before. How infuriating! The middle-aged woman came on the clouds and folded her white wings. Then, she walked over with a solemn expression. She did not need to see with her eyes to know everything around here. The spiritual senses of a demigod expert were countless times more powerful than those of Consort Yu, who had been enhanced by the light of equalization. Long Yu was rather confused by what she said. He did not know what she was angry about. Did they kidnap the young master of the Ghost Bat Demon Clan? But judging from her expression, it did not seem like it. The middle-aged woman came to Xiaobai and Long Yu with a solemn expression. She raised her hand, and the power of the world surged out and invaded Long Yu and Xiaobai's small worlds. Then, Bal Sol and the young master of the Ghost Bat Demon Clan were both captured. This situation caused Long Yu to frown slightly. Could it be that the other party was here to save someone? But soon, Long Yu was relieved, because after she captured Bal Sol and the young master, she immediately raised her hand and formed a white sword aura, which directly shattered Bal Sol. The engagement between the Heavenly Bat Demon Clan and the Ghost Bat Demon Clan is cancelled. Among the troops on the battlefield, the troops of the Ghost Bat Demon Clan will be sent to the front line first. The words of the middle-aged demigod made the troops of the Ghost Bat Demon Clan, not far away, turn pale. She really did not care about their feelings at all. Chapter 1349. Even Long Yu was slightly surprised. The demigod of the Heavenly Bat Demons was truly impartial. She killed the Bal Sol without any hesitation. In fact, it could even be said that Long Yu was already somewhat astonished in his heart. That was because he had never seen such an existence before. Even though there was a marriage alliance between the Ghost Bat Monstrous Clan and the Ghost Bat Monstrous Clan, they did not give the slightest bit of face. This sort of ruthlessness was truly shocking. If it was just a superficial talk, then anyone could do it. But right now, this demigod directly shattered the Bal Sol, which was something that few people could do. Are you surprised? The demigod middle-aged woman glanced at Long Yu's side and said lightly, "If demigods of the Demon Clan were to act in favor of others and act domineeringly, the territories of the Human Clan and the Demon Clan would have been conquered by the outsiders long ago. Rules are rules. No matter who it is, even demigods cannot violate them. Everyone must remember that Maru Hun's actions are a taboo." These words made Long Yu's blood surge in his heart. Just as Red Oriole had said, demigod experts always considered any problem from the perspective of the demon race as a whole. That was because the 7 demigods were the guardians of the demon race. If even demigods disobeyed the rules and did whatever they wanted, like what the demigod of the Heavenly Bat Demon Clan said, the territory of humans and demons would have been occupied by aliens a long time ago, and humans and demons would end up like the Bone Clan and the Vestigial Clan. They could only be refugees or even completely annihilated. The person you want is here. As the demigod middle-aged woman said that, an old man was thrown out of the small world of the dead Bal Sol. It was exactly Wei Yuyin who was with the Bal Sol. But at this moment, Red Oriole didn't want this guy anymore. The old man was too restless. If he were to cause trouble in the Void Galaxy, it would be a disaster for everyone in the Void Galaxy. "Senior, you can deal with this guy." Seeing that Wei Yuyin was thrown over, Red Oriole said to the demigod. The demigod middle-aged woman's lips curled. "Okay, Dragonwing and Landslide have told me about your exploits. They're not bad. My duty is not to guard the galaxy. I'm here to take you to the demigods. If there's nothing else, come with me." Before Wei Yuyin could say anything, she had been captured by the demigod with a belt of white light and thrown into her own little world. "We still have some matters to attend to. We need to make a trip to the army's headquarters." Without waiting for Long Yu's reply, Little White interrupted. If Long Yu left with them, he wouldn't be able to return to planet Shuel Luo within 2 days. He would have to wait for 3 months before he could return to the Void Galaxy. This wasn't something Whitey wanted to see. It wanted to enter the Void and cultivate as soon as possible. It wanted to break through to the 7th stage Great Ruler Realm. 2 days later, we will return to Fallen Bloodstar. Long Yu followed Little White's words. He wasn't thinking about Little White. He just wanted Shi Yingwu and the others to return to the Void Galaxy as soon as possible. If they used 3 months to cultivate, they could improve a lot. Moreover, there was the Primordium Gold Pond for them to comprehend. It would take at least a year for them to fully comprehend it. This was very important for everyone. If the Primordium Gold Pond was comprehended, there was a stone statue of the multi-winged race in Long Yu's little world. It contained some kind of revelation-level divine text derived from the primordium power of metal. At least 3 to 5 people could comprehend it. Whoever wanted to comprehend it could wait. In any case, the Primordium Gold Pond was a must for everyone. Of course, some people didn't have the primordium power of metal, so they weren't suitable for the Primordium Gold Pond. However, comprehending the primordium power of metal wouldn't do them any harm. It would strengthen them a lot. For these people, the key was to obtain a powerful martial technique that could be used with the primordium power of metal. Otherwise, even if they comprehended the primordium power of metal, they wouldn't be able to unleash much of its power without the means to use it. In terms of martial techniques, Long Yu planned to go with Little White to the army headquarters and use his merit points to exchange for one. There should be some unbounded martial techniques in the army headquarters. When the time came, he could just choose one that could unleash the primordium power of metal. Of course, even the army headquarters wouldn't have too many unbounded martial techniques. He would have to go there first. Then I will wait here for 2 days. I will also take care of the situation on Fallen Bloodstar. The demigod middle-aged woman nodded. She didn't make things difficult for Long Yu and Red Oriole to go with her. She decided to stay and take care of the situation on Fallen Bloodstar. This caused Long Yu to heave a sigh of relief. It wasn't a good thing for him if the Fallen Bloodstar was in such a mess. If Red Flame, Man Xin, and the others who were training outside returned and something happened to them, the situation wouldn't be good. "All right. Thank you, Senior." Long Yu nodded. Balsol's small world and the young master of the Ghostbat Demon Clan were both taken away by the demigod. As for the Legion of 1,000 Ghostbats, they were also taken away by the demigod. As she said, those people were probably going to be sent to the front line first, doing as one pleased in the outer domain galaxy, acting tyrannically and tyrannically. This kind of behavior was strictly forbidden by the Army Corps on the battlefield. Not only did the other party openly violate this rule, he even dared to make a move against Long Yu, who had a first-class honor badge. "Then we'll be on our way." Little White clasped her fists at the demigod and then left for the teleportation array. The demigod wasn't bothered. She waved her hands and asked them to leave. The demigod of the heavenly bats is named Flamboyance. He guards the east of the demon territory and the 60 or so galaxies in the east. The heavenly bats and the ghost bats both belong to the eastern forces of the demon territory. After she left, Little White said to Long Yu and Red Oriole. Of course, Long Yu didn't know the details about demigods. Red Oriole hadn't even become a Grand Dominator before, so she didn't know much about them either. Little White, on the other hand, knew a lot about them. Then, the 3 of them came to the teleportation array on the Fallen Bloodstar. Long Yu showed his Tier 1 honor badge and asked to activate the teleportation array. The manager of the teleportation array didn't dare to delay. He received the 3 of them and activated the teleportation array for them. It was a smooth journey. On the way, the 3 of them discussed what to do if there were no weapon refiners in the void. Both alchemists and weapon refiners were crucial to a force. Now that Wei Yin was no longer available, they would have to look for someone else. However, it wasn't easy to find a suitable candidate. Why don't we recruit one from the headquarters of the Legion? Red Oriole suggested. You don't know what kind of person they are. Chances are that they are even worse than Wei Yin. Long Yu, however, shook his head. The Blood Demon clan does have some rather awesome weapon refiners, but I don't dare to bring them back to the Void Galaxy. Otherwise, the secret of the Void Galaxy will be exposed to my father. Red Oriole chuckled. She didn't want the existence of the Void to be known by everybody. The advanced weapon refiners of the Blood Demon clan were all at the service of the Blood Demon clan. Their loyalty was unquestionable. If they were brought back to the Void, the chief of the Blood Demon clan would definitely learn the secret. Although the chief of the Blood Demon clan was Red Oriole's father, Red Oriole didn't want him to get involved either. I have a good candidate in mind, but the old guy is a bit weird. If you can persuade him, he might be able to oversee the Void. Xiao Bai rubbed his chin and looked at Long Yu up and down. But if it's you, Brother Long, the old guy might like you. You can give it a try. But the old guy is in the territory of the human race. He's very far away from here. That's not a bad idea. There's no hurry to find a weapon refiner. If your old friend is suitable, we can pay him a visit when we have time. Long Yu narrowed his eyes. He was quite interested in the person Xiao Bai was talking about. At the very least, it had to be someone recommended by Whitey. Whitey was also in the Void Galaxy, so it would not do anything to harm the Void Galaxy. Even if it took some time, as long as they could invite the person over, it would be more than enough. That old bastard has forged more than one unbounded top-tier battle weapon in the past. When it comes to weaponsmithing, he's already at the pinnacle of perfection. The only things that could pique his interest are the relics of gods and special weaponsmithing materials. Xiao Bai nodded and said, "Then I'll leave you a jade slip. It records the old guy's residence in the human race. I'll also write some words of recommendation. With my reputation, he should be able to meet you. As for whether or not you can seize the opportunity, it's up to you. But I suggest you go alone. The old guy likes peace and quiet. Of course, I don't know much about his temperament. Think about it yourselves." "All right, thank you." Long Yu put away the jade slip, then nodded his head and said. After the discussion, they went through the teleportation array with the space-time mark for the last time. In just 6 hours, they arrived at the center of the galaxy, the planet where the headquarters of the battlefield army was located. This was the main planet of the Third Outer Galaxy, the most prosperous place. It was also the place where the guardian of the Third Outer Galaxy, Landslide, was located. Normally, the Black Tiger-type Divine Mountain Breaker guarded the army headquarters in the Third Outer Domain Galaxy. However, Long Yu didn't know if he would be able to see him this time. It would be good if he could. After all, they were friends, and some things would be easier to talk about. "We brought a lot of things this time. The Black Tiger Landslide will definitely come out in person," Xiao Bai said with narrowed eyes. Whitey narrowed his eyes and said. He didn't show any respect to Mountain Breaker at all, which made Long Yu feel rather awkward. But that was just how Whitey was. Long Yu had gotten used to it on the way. Chapter 1350. The three of them walked all the way to the headquarters of the Third Outer Domain Galaxy. It was a planet several times larger than planet Xueluo. 3 sources of divine runes surrounded it like 3 suns. As the army headquarters, planet number 3 rotated, the 3 suns revolved above everyone's heads, repeating the cycle. Long Yu walked out of the space-time imprint teleportation formation of the Third Outer Domain star. He looked around and found that this was a very prosperous city. There were tall buildings in the city, and between the pavilions of various styles, cultivators of the human clan and the demon clan came and went. Of course, the number of demon clan cultivators on the main star of the Third Outer Region Galaxy in the demon clan's territory was much more than that of the human clan. The moment they arrived at the third foreign domain planet, Long Yu felt an extremely special aura. It was extremely solemn. An oppressive feeling descended from the sky. No one dared to make any strange movements here. Before they came, Little White had told them that it was the aura of a powerful defense array that several demigods of the demon race had set up together. Once demigods of alien races or armies attacked the third outer domain galaxy, the defense array would be able to resist for at least a year. Not only on the third outer domain galaxy, but on the main planets of the first outer domain galaxy and the second outer domain galaxy, there were similar defense arrays. They were the strongest barriers in the three outer domains. For the alien races, they were extremely difficult to deal with. Before, when the Ice God clan wanted to attack the outer domains through the space-time tunnel, the biggest problem was that they had to deal with the defense arrays. Over the years, the demigods of the demon race have poured a lot of energy into the defense arrays. Moreover, the energy could be stored, which made the defense arrays more and more solid. Of course, it didn't mean that the defense arrays were unbreakable. As long as the alien races found some special ways, such as killing the eye of the array, they could easily break the defense arrays. That was the plan of the Ice God clan. Unfortunately, because of Long Yu's interference, the Ice God clan's plan was put on hold, and they suffered heavy losses. Now, the demon race and the human race were planning to counterattack the Ice God clan. As for the details, Long Yu didn't know. Let's go. We'll go straight to the Legion headquarters on the third outer domain planet. As Whitey spoke, it led Long Yu and Red Oriole toward the army headquarters. Along the way, many people came and went. They were all cultivators who needed some resources for their adventures in the third outer domain galaxy. The third outer domain star was the most prosperous place in the entire third outer domain galaxy. Moreover, there were many experts with the Battlefield Legion's medals patrolling the streets. These people were all members of the Battlefield Legion, and every single one of them was in existence in the Sovereign Secret Realm. The three of them did not encounter any trouble along the way. Soon, they arrived outside the city. Of course, the headquarters of the Battlefield Army was not in the city. On the contrary, the area occupied by the Battlefield Army headquarters was several times larger than the city just now. Ordinary mercenaries were not qualified to enter the headquarters of the Battlefield Army. They could only accept training missions in the mission areas outside the Battlefield Army. If one wanted to enter the headquarters of the Battlefield Army headquarters, one had to be a member of the Battlefield Army headquarters, like Long Yu, who had a Medal of Honor, or a cultivator who had been specially summoned. The headquarters of the Battlefield Army headquarters was a spherical building, somewhat similar to the shape of a battlefield fortress. From the outside, the entire building looked like a small planet that had landed on the third outer domain planet. Long Yu stood in front of the headquarters and looked up. He couldn't see the top of the spherical building at a glance. It's spectacular. Even Red Oriole couldn't help but sigh. In the skies, two sun-like sources of divine runes illuminated the entire planet. And in front of them was a small planet that sat on flat plains. From the entrance to this small planet, people constantly came and went, all of the members of the Legion that fought in and out of the Legion headquarters. The mission areas of the other Battlefield Army mercenaries were just outside the entrance of the planet, in a grand hall. This hall was very majestic, but compared to the small planet building of the Battlefield Army headquarters, it was still a far cry. Long Yu and the other two bypassed the grand hall and walked directly toward the planet-shaped Battlefield Army headquarters. This is a first-class honor medal. We have some things to give to the Battlefield Army headquarters. Take us to the Chief Commercial Officer of the Battlefield Army headquarters. Xiaobai arrived at the entrance of the Battlefield Army headquarters and said to one of the 100 guards. There were over 100 guards, and all of them had the strength of a higher sovereign. Every single one of them was a veteran of hundreds of battles. Long Yu could sense a boundless killing intent from their bodies. These guards were definitely much stronger than the two Ghost Bat race higher sovereigns he had fought before. In fact, Long Yu didn't have much of a chance of winning against any one of these guards. As Xiaobai spoke, Long Yu flashed his first-class honor medal. When one of the guards saw it, his expression also changed slightly. As guards of the Battlefield Army headquarters, they had seen all sorts of people. However, when they saw the first-class honor medal, their expressions still changed. It was easy to imagine how rare first-class honor medals were. In fact, for a long time, These guards might not even see a first-class honor medal. Seeing how young Long Yu was, how could they not know about the shocking news in the battlefield army headquarters? Could this be Long Yu of the human race, little brother Long Yu? The guard's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly greeted them with a smile. There were too many people coming and going at the entrance of the battlefield army headquarters. The other guards didn't move, and they all guarded other directions. Only one person came up to greet Long Yu, and the other two. "It's me." Long Yu wasn't surprised that the guard recognized him. On the contrary, the guard was considered an important figure in the battlefield army headquarters. It would be too inexplicable if even Long Yu didn't know who he was. It wasn't that Long Yu was bragging, but the rarity of a first-class honor medal was indeed enough to make him a celebrity in the battlefield army headquarters. "Then follow me." The guard didn't expect that Long Yu would come to the battlefield army headquarters, but he reacted quickly and led the three of them into the battlefield army headquarters with a polite smile. The battlefield army headquarters was divided into many areas. The place that Little White asked the guard to bring them to was, of course, the trading area. They needed to exchange for battlefield army merit, materials, and training resources. The amount was too huge, and only the battlefield army headquarters could satisfy them. There were a total of 18 floors in the trading area, and each floor had a person in charge. These 18 floors didn't have a progressive relationship, but an equal relationship. In other words, the quality of the items on each floor was about the same, but they were managed by different people. The person that Little White asked the guard to bring them to was the commercial director of the battlefield army headquarters, who was in charge of the general affairs of the entire 18 floors of the trading area. Just because of the first-class honor medal, the commercial director had to come and meet them. As for the corpses of the demigod aliens, they naturally couldn't be made public to ordinary people. The commercial director of the battlefield army headquarters was about the lowest level that could know such secrets. Hearing that a young talent who had obtained a first-class honor medal had come, the commercial director of the battlefield army headquarters quickly came out to greet him. It wasn't that he was very respectful, but it would definitely be good for him to make friends with people like Long Yu. Moreover, since Long Yu had come to the battlefield army headquarters, he must have a big business to do. Otherwise, why would Long Yu come all the way to the battlefield army headquarters? The commercial director was a wood demon, and he was very handsome in the form of a young man. When he saw Long Yu, his eyes lit up. "Haha, it's Long Yu indeed. Brother Long, you're a great hero of our demon race. How come you have time to come to our battlefield army headquarters?" The wood demon young man laughed. His attitude was very frank and sincere. "You recognized me, but I don't know how to address you." Long Yu smiled. Since the other party treated him politely, he would certainly respect him. There was nothing wrong with asking how he should address him first. "I'm from the wood demon race. My name is Ling Luo. You could just call me Little Luo." As the commercial director of the battlefield army headquarters, the wood demon young man's words and actions were very appropriate. He was like a spring breeze. After all, he had seen too many people. Even the demigod experts, who usually trained in the headquarters of the Legion, would summon him now and then. Okay. Little Luo, come here. I have something to tell you. This time, we really have something impressive to give to the battlefield army." Little White chuckled, patted Ling Luo's shoulder, and said warmly, "I can roughly guess." Ling Luo didn't resist Little White's enthusiasm. She still smiled gently. "Everyone, please follow me. This is not the place to talk." The three followed her and walked to the 20th floor of the trading area. The bottom 18 floors of the trading area were the trading area. Most of the members of the battlefield army traded on the bottom 18 floors. However, the trading area also had the 19th and the 20th floors. The 19th floor was the storage area of special items. There were many complicated spaces in that place. Many treasures of the battlefield army were stored there. It was heavily guarded. The 20th floor was where Ling Luo and the others worked. Few people were qualified to come to the 20th floor. If they wanted to talk about something important, they had to go to the 20th floor to do it. "Can you guess what we're here for?" Red Oriole was rather surprised by Ling Luo's words. She followed and asked, "If my guess is correct, it should be the bodies of alien demigods, right?" Ling Luo narrowed her eyes and asked, That surprised Red Oriole. She was somewhat surprised that Ling Luo could guess it. Long Yu, however, was not surprised at all. He chuckled. Because Ball Soul and the others have already been here, right? The battlefield army should have obtained the bodies of a few alien demigods. Ling Luo nodded with a smile. That's right. Chapter 1351. It was not hard for Long Yu to guess it. After all, Ball Soul and Xia Lei had both successfully left the relics of the primordial alien races with the remains of unknown demigods. Such items could only be sold in the headquarters of the Legion. The legions in other battlefields were absolutely not qualified to purchase them. Even the offices of the regular legions in other battlefields were not qualified to know such things. It must be noted that in the headquarters of the Legion, only people of what Demon Ling Luo's status were qualified to know the remains of such demigods. For the entire demon race, it was a top secret. Now that Ling Luo had guessed it, there was no need for Long Yu to keep him guessing. Holding Ling Luo's shoulder, Little White chuckled. However, I have to tell you in advance that the remains of demigods of alien races that we've obtained are dozens of times more than what Ball Soul and Xia Lei gave you. You'd better be prepared. These words caused the wood monster's scattered body to tremble, and its expression gradually became serious. Okay, follow me. We'll talk inside. On the 20th floor of the trading area in the headquarters of the Legion, nobody would disturb them. Those who could come here were all the senior staff of the Legion, and they were all qualified to know such things as the remains of demigods of alien races. After all, even if Long Yu sold the remains of demigods of alien races to Ling Luo, he would still have to ask other people to deal with the storage. Those people were the senior staff on the 20th floor, and they were all well-trained professionals. Very soon, they reached a room on the 20th floor. Little White had been communicating with Ling Luo intimately the whole time. There was no telling what they were talking about. Now that they were in the room where nobody else was, Ling Luo was more open and straightforward. None of you are an outsider, and Brother Long has made a great contribution in the battle against the Ice God clan. So, I'll be straightforward. Ling Luo said with a smile. Earlier, the headquarters of the Legion received 4 bodies of demigods of alien races. Although they are not complete, they are still of great research value. Therefore, we offered a very high price. Can you tell me who gave them to you? Little White sighed. There were more than a dozen of us who entered the ancient ruins, but in the end, only a few of us came out alive. Ball Soul and Dark Thunder came to Shui Luo Star to cause trouble, so we don't know who came out alive. In addition to Ball Soul and Dark Thunder, there are also Boss Bear and Su Yuqing. Both of them came out alive. Speaking of which, these two are still in our army headquarters and haven't left. I can let you meet them later. Ling Luo didn't hide anything. She smiled and said, if they hear that you are still alive, they will definitely be very happy. These two are different from Marrow Soul and Thunder. Oh, it seems that you already know what Marahun and Yori have done. Long Yu was a little surprised. The headquarters of the Legion can receive news from the entire territory of the demon race at any time. Besides, even Lord Gaudi was involved in the trouble that Marahun caused. Naturally, we learned it as soon as possible. Ling Luo said with a smile. Marahun was truly bold enough to attack his own people in the 3rd outer domain. However, it's all in the past now. Let's talk about business. Everyone, how many demigod bodies have you brought out from the ancient ruins? Long Yu understood the principle that things were precious when they were rare, but there was no need for him to play tricks on them. They could just be honest with each other. Therefore, Long Yu simply told the truth. There are almost 100 demigod bodies in total. They are as incomplete as the ones they brought before. Most of them are demigod bodies of the multi-winged race. They had almost 100 demigod bodies of the multi-winged race in total. Other than that, there were also unknown demigod bodies of the alien races that consort you. Little White, Shui Luo, Long Yu, and Red Oriole had each obtained. Those things were not very useful for them, but for the headquarters of the Legion, it was a great opportunity to learn about other alien races. Such an opportunity might not come by again in 100 years. Ling Luo's smile froze the moment he heard the number that Long Yu reported. Although he was mentally prepared, he didn't expect that Long Yu could offer so many demigod bodies of alien races. It was definitely a great fortune that the headquarters of the Legion was about to obtain. If there was only one demigod body of an alien race, many research methods couldn't be used because some of them would destroy the demigod body, which would cause a lot of inconvenience and limitations for the research. However, if there were almost 100 demigod bodies of the multi-winged race, they would be able to conduct experiments to their heart's content and figure out the body structure and power composition of the alien race. Such a large number of bodies would make it much easier for the headquarters to study the alien demigods. It would be much more convenient and faster. It was definitely a precious treasure. Therefore, even the wood demons had no idea what to do with the corpses of demigods of alien races. It would be too difficult to calculate the number of demigod corpses according to the military contributions on battlefield. If there are so many, please wait a moment. I'll inform Senior Landslide to take care of it. After all, Wood Monsterling Luo had seen a lot of things. After a short days, he realized what was going on and immediately treated it as an emergency. He informed Mountain Breaker of the Black Tiger species who was in charge of the headquarters of the 3rd Alien Star Army. Because the number was too large, Ling Luo couldn't make the decision himself. He could only ask for the help of a demigod expert. Of course, there was another reason. If Ling Luo had to pay a high price for such a large number of bodies, he might have had to pay the battlefield merits. If he gave them the battlefield merits, most of the items in the trade house would have been emptied by Long Yu and his companions. If the demigod came, it was possible that the demigod could directly give something to offset some of the battlefield merits, which would be a great help. Any demigod body of an alien race was worth at least 1 billion battlefield merits. It must be known that an ordinary 7-star Imperial Monarch would only be able to obtain 1 or 2 million battlefield merit points if they work hard for an entire month without stopping. It would take almost 80 years for him to save 100 million battlefield merits, and that was if he didn't spend them at all during the 80 years. But right now, Long Yu and his companions had taken out almost 100 alien demigod bodies. It was not hard to imagine that the headquarters of the Legion wouldn't be able to afford such a number if they exchanged the battlefield merits like Maru Hun and his companions did. The Black Tiger, Landslide, should have come as soon as he received the message. He didn't even waste any time. In just a few breaths of time, a familiar figure appeared in the room and stood in front of everyone. At the same time, a majestic aura descended. It's not bad to hear that you're still alive. Long Yu, you didn't disappoint us. Landslide laughed and flashed into the room. His unshaven body made him look extremely brawny. He glanced at everybody and nodded. Not bad, not bad. You've made great contributions to the demon race again. It's a pity that the honor badge can only be level 1 at best. It seems that I should discuss with the other demigods whether or not I should create a special level honor badge for you. Hee hee. Of course, he was only joking. The rules of the demon race wouldn't be changed just because of Long Yu. However, it was not hard to tell how much Landslide appreciated Long Yu. Without a doubt, Long Yu stalled the 3 alien demigods, which allowed them to win the battle against the Ice God clan. Now that he had obtained almost 100 alien demigod bodies, he was definitely a great contributor to the alliance of the demon race and the human race. Of course, Long Yu had to be modest. So, he shook his head and smiled. I can't take all the credit for this. The demigod corpses of the alien races were obtained through our joint efforts, and a lot of people died, including Master Yang. Since only Maru Hun and his companions came out, Master Yang, who left together with them, must have been trapped in the primeval alien relics. Whatever the situation was, he must have died now. Even if he didn't die, he wouldn't have been able to escape the blast caused by the battle between the Dragon of Tartarus and the demigod statue of the multi-wing clan. Now that Master Yang was dead, they had sacrificed a lot in this trip to the primeval alien relics. However, for the alliance of the demon race and the human race, the sacrifice was definitely worth it. The price-performance ratio was very high. Sacrificing a few great lords could get almost 100 alien demigod bodies. The price-performance ratio was very high. In any case, since you've all made it out alive, let's talk about the price. Mountain Bung straightforwardly laughed. Talking about this kind of thing would not make people feel awkward. Both sides were taking what they needed. If Long Yu directly handed the item to him, he would be somewhat unwilling. That would make him feel that he owed Long Yu a favor. How could demigods be willing to owe other people a favor? Therefore, it was necessary for them to offer a price. Naturally, Long Yu wouldn't give in on that, because there were too many things waiting to be done in the Void Galaxy. If Long Yu didn't take a huge sum of money from the headquarters of the Legion, it would be impossible for the Void Galaxy to develop. Therefore, when it came to the issue of price, everyone put their thoughts on it and prepared to discuss it properly. As one of the 7 demigods of the demon race, Landslide certainly wouldn't want to take advantage of Long Yu and his companions. Earlier, Flamboyant had even killed Maru Hun in the name of justice. It was obvious that demigods couldn't be treated as ordinary people. Very soon, Landslide gave the 3 of them 10 options in total. The 3 of them could pick 5 of the options as the reward for submitting the alien demigod bodies. Chapter 1352. It could be said that every option given by Landslide was extremely precious to normal cultivators. Even in the eyes of Long Yu and Little White, they seemed to be something that they had to choose. However, Landslide also clearly pointed out that they could only choose 5 out of the 10 options as rewards. Landslide gave them some time to think. During this time, Long Yu took out all the corpses of the demigod aliens from the small world and gave them to Landslide. Landslide then led the others to identify them with the wood demon Ling Luo. In the room, only Long Yu, Red Oriole, and Little White were left to face the 10 options given by Landslide. Among the 10 options, there were almost everything apart from battlefield merits. It included all the resources that the cultivators in this world needed. Moreover, there were many things that Long Yu had never seen or heard of. There were also many things that he knew but had never seen in the outside world, such as the ancient god Forbidden Skill. Among the 10 options, the one that surprised Long Yu the most was the ancient god Forbidden Skill. This was the last option provided by Landslide. It could be seen that this ancient god Forbidden Skill was an extremely precious existence in Landslide's heart. However, this ancient god Forbidden Skill was only an incomplete copy and could only be cultivated to the first 3 moves. Even so, no one could deny the value of this incomplete ancient god Forbidden Skill. It was normal for the Juyo Dragon Emperor to have the ancient god Forbidden Skill and the cultivation method of the 4 aspects killing prison. After all, the Juyo Dragon Emperor was the existence that was closest to the gods in this world. He was at the peak of the demigod level. However, for Landslide, this ancient god Forbidden Skill was already beyond what he could obtain. To be more specific, it was definitely not obtained by Landslide. It was very likely that he had obtained it with the strength of the entire demon race in the past. If Long Yu chose this option, Landslide would give him a rubbing of the ancient god Forbidden Skill. This rubbing was drawn and recorded by Landslide after he had mastered the first 3 moves of the ancient god Forbidden Skill. He had also written some of his experiences in cultivating this ancient god Forbidden Skill. Compared to the 4 symbols Death Prison, the 3 moves of the ancient god Forbidden technique were definitely much easier to cultivate. This was very attractive to Long Yu, and it was naturally the same for Whitey and Red Oriole. The most important thing for cultivation resources is the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the power of creation. We don't need the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, but we have to choose the power of creation. Therefore, the first choice can be decided. Xiaobai pointed at the first option given by Landslide. The first option was a large number of creation items. Specifically, it was 1,000 Heaven Crystal level creation items, 10,000 Earth Seal level creation items, and 100,000 Dark Jade level creation items. With so many creations added together, it was equivalent to 2 billion battlefield army merits. For the headquarters of the Battlefield Corps, this was the maximum number of creations they could offer. If they took out more, it would affect the normal operation of the entire third outer domain galaxy, at least to some extent. It would also have a certain impact on the market of the entire third outer domain galaxy. It must be noted that Long Yu had stalled 3 alien demigods and made a great contribution in the Battle of the Ice God Clan, but he had only received 5 million battlefield honor points for it. It was not hard to imagine how abundant the resources they had obtained now were. That's right. Creation items are indispensable. Let's decide on the first option. Red Oriole and Long Yu both nodded in agreement. Creation items were the most important cultivation resources for those above the Emperor level, so they had to be chosen. There were 4 more options. Although I don't know how many materials there are in both of them, they're indispensable to the development of our void galaxy. Besides, I don't think it's that important to gather the pellets and weapons. In comparison, it's better to choose the materials. Whitey continued to analyze. These 4 sets were 4 of the choices that Landslide had given. He did not specify the exact number of items, but just by looking at the 1,000 Heaven Crystal level creation items, one could tell that these 4 sets definitely had a lot of items. In that case, Whitey's words made sense. They didn't need finished pills or battle weapons. In any case, they had Liao Lele as their alchemist. High-grade pills could be concocted by Liao Lele, and ordinary pills could be concocted by many people. As long as they had the materials, it would be fine. They could also train their alchemy skills, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It was the same for weapons. Since there would not be any battles in the Void Galaxy at this stage, there was not a great need for finished weapons. As long as Long Yu invited Whitey's strange friend over, it would not be too late to use the materials to make weapons. Even if Whitey's friend was unwilling to come, the Void Galaxy still needed a weapon refiner. Anyway, they would think about it when the time came. It was useless to think too much about it now. In this way, 3 options have been decided: creation items, alchemy materials, and weapon materials. Everyone was a little hesitant about which option to choose. Among them, there was even a galaxy for Long Yu and the others as their territory. Of course, they would not accept such an option. Even if they didn't have the Void Galaxy as their territory, they wouldn't have chosen a galaxy. It must be known that without sufficient strength, it was impossible to manage a galaxy. Although the Demon Clan's territory was generally peaceful, there would still be many troublemakers. Not to mention that Long Yu had enemies everywhere. If he had his own territory in the Demon Clan's territory, his days would definitely not be peaceful. After thinking about it, everyone decided to choose the forbidden skill of Ancient God as the 4th choice. The temptation of the forbidden skill of Ancient God was too great. Moreover, since it was a forbidden skill of Ancient God that Landslide could learn, they should be able to learn it as well. As long as they learned the forbidden skill of the Ancient Gods, their strength would increase by several times. It was not something that could be easily achieved, especially for people like Whitey, who had almost reached the peak of the demigod level. It was not easy to become a demigod. Therefore, if they wanted to improve their strength, they had to consider it from this aspect. Even Consort Yu was in the same situation. Of course, they would not make the choices for the benefit of the ordinary cultivators in the Void Galaxy. Apart from their overall strength, the most important thing was the top combat ability among them. In case of any accidents in the future, the top combat ability would be the deciding factor. Even if they wanted to improve their overall strength, the ultimate goal was to serve the top combat ability. After all, if the overall cultivation environment was better, the faster they could cultivate, and the easier it would be for some genius cultivators to enter the ranks of the top combat ability. Both the overall strength and the individual strength were factors that could not be ignored in the development of a force. Only by becoming stronger as a whole could more and more powerful individuals emerge. After making 4 choices, the last one was even more difficult to choose. Apart from a choice of the Void Galaxy, there were 2 other choices that they could not decide on. One of them was the unbounded level martial skills, and the other was the cultivation method of the God formation. There were a total of 12 unbounded martial techniques, 6 from the human race and 6 from the demon race. All of them were mid or low grade, And although they weren't as strong as a high-grade, unbounded technique like the Warcray Celestial Body, they would still be a valuable resource for the Starry River. Those 12 martial skills were extremely valuable to the armies on the battlefield, and were difficult to exchange for even with merit points. For example, Long Yu's first-class honor badge was enough to exchange for the unbounded level martial skills. There weren't many records of unbounded martial techniques in the army on the battlefield, and those 12 were the most important of all of the unbounded martial techniques in the army on the battlefield. The other option was God Arrays. This included 3 types of first-grade God Arrays, 15 types of second-grade God Arrays, and 200 types of third-grade God Arrays. The cultivation method of this divine array could be said to include all kinds of divine arrays. Its importance to the development of a force was self-evident. Why do I get the feeling that the choices Landslide gave us are really bad? Xiaobai said, scratching his head. Many of the 10 choices are clearly meant for the major forces. But right now, both Brother Dragon and I are just humans. Don't tell me that Landslide guessed that we wanted to build a force, so he gave us these choices? Either way, we're not going to change our choices. Don't worry about the unbounded level martial skills. I have a way to get them, and they might even be better than these 12. They're just a bit more difficult to cultivate, so they're not suitable for ordinary cultivators. Long Yu said, narrowing his eyes. I think it's better for us to choose these god formations. They're more suitable for the development of the Void Galaxy. I can tell that you're cultivating a high-quality, unbounded level body tempering technique. Even demigods might not be able to learn a technique of that level. Whitey looked over at Long Yu and chuckled. If you have a way to get your hands on unbounded martial skills, then there's no need for us to pick martial skills. Let's just go with the god formations. That's right. Even if Landslide knows that we want to build a force, he won't stop us. Red Oriole nodded. Demigods always think from the perspective of the entire race. As long as our force can contribute to the alliance between the demon race and the human race, he won't stop us. Instead, he'll support us. Besides, our base is in the Void Galaxy. If we can really develop it, it'll definitely become an important strategic location for both the human race and the demon race. Then our choice has been confirmed. These 5 choices will allow our overall strength to rise to the next level. Xiaobai nodded, and the 3 of them finally decided on the 5 choices. Chapter 1353. Long Yu and the others didn't offer anything other than the bones of demigod aliens, including materials such as the primordial gold crystal and the enormous stone statue of the multi-winged race, from which they could perceive the power of certain enlightenment-level divine language. However, the bones of demigod aliens were already enough for Landslide to offer the 5 options. Therefore, there was no need for Long Yu to take out the other things. He might as well keep them for himself. Very quickly, Shanbeng and the rest returned from the inspection. Although it was inspection, it wasn't that Shanbeng didn't trust Long Yu. He just wanted to see the quality of this batch of goods. Not bad. There are 97 bones of demigod aliens in total. 5 of them are from unknown aliens and 92 are from the multi-winged race. Shanbeng laughed heartily as he returned to the room. Wood monsterling Luo followed behind him with a smile, holding a jade slip in his hand. On the jade slip was a list of some items, which should be the procedure for an exchange. So, have you decided which 5 options you want? Landslide walked to them and asked them with a smile. Yes, I have. These 5. Whitey recorded her choice on a jade slip and handed it to the other party. After the results of the landslide, Xiao Chun cast his divine sense into it, and a look of understanding appeared in his eyes. From the looks of it, Xiao Chun could tell that Long Yu and the others wanted to establish their own power. However, it was not a bad thing for Landslide. He certainly wouldn't stop Little White and Long Yu, so he didn't say anything. He just wanted to know what Little White and Long Yu were going to do next. To put it simply, although Long Yu's level was not very high, great events seemed to happen wherever he went. Therefore, Landslide had to pay more attention to him. Okay, then I'll give these things to you tomorrow. As for now, why don't you come with me to meet Boss Bear and Su Yuqing? Landslide said to them with a smile. It was not easy to prepare so many things immediately. It was normal that it would take a day. Fortunately, they could return to Shuel Luo planet tomorrow. Okay, let's go. Little White nodded. As for Boss Bear and Su Yuqing, Little White, Long Yu, and Red Oriole, of course, wanted to meet them. After all, they were worth befriending. At that time, it was Maru, Hun, and Dark Thunder who blew up the exit of the ancient alien ruins. Boss Bear and Su Yuqing seemed to have tried to stop them, but they did not succeed. This also caused the two of them to blame themselves recently. Fortunately, they would feel better after hearing that Shuel Luo and Long Yu had returned alive. However, they would still miss Consort Yu. After all, Consort Yu is the strongest in the alien relics. It would be a pity if she didn't come out alive. As for the news of Consort Yu, Long Yu and the others didn't reveal anything. Landslide didn't ask either, as if he knew that Consort Yu wouldn't die so easily. Following Landslide, everyone soon arrived at a resting hall in the headquarters of the Battlefield Army. Only members of the Battlefield Army could enter this resting hall. The entire hall was like an elegant park with pavilions, terraces, and so on. There were also people who specialized in making tea and so on. Boss Bear and Su Yuqing were in this resting hall. Although this was the headquarters of a legion, demigods were still rare here. Landslide walked in front and attracted the attention of most people along the way. At the same time, people also noticed Long Yu and the other two who were following behind Landslide. Some people were astonished by the identity of Long Yu and the others. They were actually able to follow Landslide to the resting hall, but soon, someone recognized Long Yu. It was the human young man Long Yu who made great contributions in the battle against the Ice God race. This news quickly spread throughout the lounge, and many people came to a realization. No wonder he was qualified to follow behind Landslide. So this was his identity. After all, he was a young genius who had obtained a first-class honor badge. It's just up ahead. You guys go and catch up. I'll be leaving first. I still have other things to take care of. The demigod Landslide led Long Yu to an elegant corner of the lounge. Then, he pointed at a hot spring up ahead and left with a smile. Remember to wait for Ling Luo in the trading hall tomorrow. He will deliver your things to you. All right. Thank you, Senior. Long Yu cupped his fists and bowed to Landslide, then instantly disappeared. However, Little White was already laughing out loud. It jumped into the hot spring in front of it with a put-on sound, startling many people who were originally in the hot spring. However, his jump caused two of them to widen their eyes. These two people were Boss Xiong and Su Yuqing. They had been staying in the army headquarters for a long time, because they had just handed over the two unknown demigod corpses to the army headquarters. They had obtained a lot of cultivation resources. Now, both of them had reached the 6th stage of the Great Dominator Realm. This was the result of cultivating in seclusion for the past few days. However, they had been feeling guilty these days. After all, Long Yu, Consort Yu, and the others were trapped in the ancient demigod ruins. Long Yu and the others had arrived at the army headquarters too quickly. At this time, the two of them had not heard the news of Shuel Luo's return. Therefore, when they saw Little White, they were really shocked. However, the two of them quickly recovered from their shock. Looks of ecstasy appeared on their faces. That was especially true for Big Bear. He was a straightforward person to begin with. Now, he was unable to control himself. He laughed heartily and pounced at Little White. Little White, you're actually still alive. Huh, since you're still alive, the others should be fine too, right? Boss Xiong laughed loudly and threw Little White into the hot spring. Little White did not even have time to scream before he was submerged in the hot spring. Su Yuqing was elegant and polite. She did not look at Little White, but raised her head and looked to the side. Although she was a man, she was still charming and charming. Of course, for Long Yu, this was a bit unbearable. Su Yuqing immediately saw Long Yu and Red Oriole standing next to the hot spring. A look of understanding appeared on her face. Her figure flashed, and she appeared on the shore of the hot spring, a snow-white robe already draped over her body. When did the two of you come out? Looking at your expressions, it seems that nothing happened to you. Su Yuqing asked elegantly. You guessed right. We're all fine, but Ball Soul and Dark Thunder are. Long Yu nodded and laughed softly. Ball Soul and Dark Thunder caused trouble on planet Xueluo. Ball Soul has already been eliminated by gaudy demigod. As for Dark Thunder, I'm afraid his fate is not much better. That's good. That's good. Su Yuqing was open-minded in the first place. Now that he heard the confirmation from Long Yu, he was finally completely relieved. The burden that had been weighing on his heart for almost 100 days was finally lifted. From Long Yu's words, he knew that Consort Yu, Xueluo, and the rest of them were all fine. Since they were all fine, the result was delightful and worth celebrating. It's a pity that Master Yang was stalled by the demigod illusion circle at the last moment and could not escape. Su Yuqing was still worried when she thought of that. Let's not think too much about it. Come on, let's have a drink together. We should take care of each other in the future. Boss Xiong hugged Little White and rose from the hot spring, laughing. He flashed and put on his clothes. Now that they had met an old friend, neither Boss Xiong nor Su Yuqing was in the mood to keep soaking in the hot spring. I happen to have something to tell you. Let's go and find a place. As Xiaobai spoke, it tried to break free from Big Bear's bear hug. Unfortunately, Big Bear's brute strength was too powerful. Now that it had risen to the 6th phase Great Dominator realm and was at the same realm as Xiaobai, Xiaobai couldn't break free at all. Everyone found an elegant courtyard in the lounge and booked it, preparing to drink and chat merrily. No one would eavesdrop in this place. Moreover, with Little White's abilities, it was impossible for others to eavesdrop, unless the other party was a demigod. However, there is only one demigod here, Landslide. Landslide was not stupid enough to eavesdrop on their conversation. We found a pretty good place and are preparing to build a force. We don't have much time now, so I can only make it short. I want to ask if the two of you are willing to go there and develop together. After sitting down, Little White briefly explained the situation. Of course, he did not tell them the details of the Void Galaxy. After all, if the other party was not prepared to join, it was better not to know. Boss Xiong and Su Yuqing looked at each other, both a little surprised. They did not expect Little White to tell them this as soon as they met. They were really not mentally prepared. They thought that Little White and the others would be like them, training for a while after submitting the alien demigod remains. They did not expect that they would directly prepare to build a force. It was not easy to build a force. At the very least, it needed many peak-level leaders, such as Consort Yu, and the resources needed were absolutely unimaginable. Even Consort Yu and Little White would not be able to get enough cultivation resources to develop a force, right? Long Yu did not stop Little White. After all, he also wanted to recruit these two. From some of the words of Landslide and Ling Luo, he could tell that these two were very loyal. It was just that they had not been able to stop Marahunt and Dark Thunder in time. If that was the case, it would be very good for these two to join them if they could improve the overall strength of the Void Galaxy. He just did not know if they would be willing. After all, whether it was Boss Xiong or Su Yuqing, they were not alone like Little White. They were like Xueluo, who had an emperor army under them. Of course, they wouldn't agree to it right away. Chapter 1354. Su Yuqing was the first to ask, "Where's the place you found? Is it far?" This was a very good question. He knew that there were some details that Xiaobai wouldn't tell him before he agreed. Therefore, he was just asking to make some guesses. I can only tell you that if you agree to go, you will only have one chance to come back every 3 months. Xiaobai narrowed his eyes. I've calculated the time. We have to go back tomorrow. Otherwise, we'll have to wait 3 months. What do you think? In any case, Xueluo plans to reorganize the Xueluo army. When the time comes, we will either go as a whole or disband. If you want to go, then come with us to planet Xueluo tomorrow and discuss it. When will Xueluo make his decision? Boss Xiong asked in a low voice. This was a very important matter. His limbs were well developed, but his brain was not simple. It should be in the next 2 days. But it's not certain. We split up with him, so we don't know how he's doing right now. But if it's you, you don't have to make a decision in the next 2 days. You could take your time to think about it. Xiaobai said softly. His words were a little interesting. If Shueluo didn't go to the Void Galaxy immediately, then his influence in the Void Galaxy would be much smaller. Both Ba Xiong and Su Yuqing could tell that if they wanted to go, it would be best to make a decision in the next 2 days. Fortunately, Ba Xiong and Su Yuqing's Emperor army were currently cultivating in their small world. Because they had obtained the demigod corpse of an unknown race, they had obtained a lot of cultivation resources. It was enough to increase the overall strength of the Emperor army to a whole new level. More than half of them could even step into the secret realm of sovereigns. The Emperor army would begin to transform into a sovereign army. Of course, this transformation would take a long time. It could take 3 months or 2 years. But no matter what, with enough cultivation resources, it would happen sooner or later. In that case, we will go with you to planet Shueluo tomorrow to discuss it with Shueluo. Ba Xiong and Su Yuqing nodded solemnly. If they were to go to the Void Galaxy, it would not only affect Boss Bear and Su Yuqing themselves, but also their clansmen, and they would have to inform the army on the battlefield. After all, Ba Xiong and Su Yuqing could be considered members of the battlefield army. The Emperor army that they commanded was also part of the battlefield army. It was easy to escape, but one still had to go through a set of procedures and pay a price. The key was whether it was worth it for them to leave the battlefield and join Little White consort use forces. It was one thing for them to value friendship and righteousness, but when faced with such a choice, they still had to consider it carefully. All right, let's drink first. Tomorrow, we'll go back to Shueluo Star and find him. Xiaobai chuckled and did not continue to talk about this matter. Before tomorrow, it was better to enjoy it in peace. Long Yu and Red Oriole had not been able to relax for a long time. Taking advantage of the remaining time of the day, they could take a stroll around the army headquarters. After drinking, the two of them left the planet where the army headquarters was located and went to other places on Planet 3. Wilderness, plains, snowy mountains, oceans. Every planet had many unique sceneries, and these sceneries were rarely the same anywhere else. At Red Oriole's request, Long Yu and her strolled around Planet 3 for a night. The most unique thing on this planet was that there were 3 divine rune sources orbiting around it. As a result, there were 2 suns overhead and 1 sun on the other side of the planet. This unique landscape made Long Yu feel a little enlightened. Even if he could create such a scene in his small world, could it be that the divine rune origins and the planets in the great world were also created by someone else? Or were these planets, divine rune sources, galaxies, and so on completely formed naturally? If it was created by someone else, then who could it be? The gods and the legends? Where are the gods now? In any case, Long Yu could basically confirm that the gods existed in the world, but he did not know what kind of state the gods were in. No one knew how many hardships one had to go through to become a god from a human. But all in all, Long Yu could only look up to demigods, let alone gods. The path of martial arts was long. Although Long Yu's strength could not be said to be weak, in fact, he had only taken a small step forward. After walking around the entire Planet 3, the two of them received Xiao Bai's telepathic thoughts, asking them to return to the army headquarters because the wood demons had already prepared everything for the exchange. When they returned, Xiao Bai was already waiting for the two of them. This storage ring contains items of creation. Just like what we agreed on before, 1,000 heaven crystal level items of creation, 10,000 earth seal level items of creation, and 100,000 dark jade level items of creation are enough for us to use. Little White immediately said to the two of them, "Also, these are the materials for refining pills. These are the materials for refining weapons. This storage ring contains more than 100 jade slips, which record the cultivation methods of various divine formations. And finally, this simple and unadorned jade slip contains the records of the 3 ancient god-forbidden techniques. Well, give us some of the items of creation for our daily cultivation. You can take the rest back to the Void Galaxy. Let's go back to planet Shueluo first." Long Yu nodded and looked around. Where are Ba Xiong and Su Yuqing? They are waiting at the space-time imprint teleportation array. Let's go there. Xiao Bai said as he put away the items and prepared to leave the spherical building where the army headquarters was located with the two of them. From afar, they saw Wood Monsterling land at the entrance of the army headquarters, smiling and waving at them. This guy was gentle and elegant, making people feel comfortable as if they were bathing in a spring breeze. This time, the transaction was completed. Since Long Yu and Little White were in a hurry, they didn't have time to talk to Wood Demon Ling Luo. After saying goodbye to Ling Luo, they had to leave. Otherwise, they might not be able to make it to the space-time passageway leading to the Void Galaxy. 6 hours later, they returned to planet Luo. Xiao Bai, Long Yu, Red Oriole, Boss Xiong, and Su Yuqing, 5 people in total, returned to the place where the exploration of the ancient alien relics began. There were only 6 hours left before the space-time tunnel closed. They needed to find Luo and ask him to explain some things to Boss Xiong and Su Yuqing. Then, they would go to the army on the battlefield. As for Long Yu and Red Oriole, they had nothing to do for now. They needed to make some preparations and find the demigod Gaudi of the heavenly bat demons. She would lead them to the demigod college. The demigod college was not urgent. Therefore, Long Yu and Red Oriole planned to follow Xiao Bai and discuss with Luo first. At the very least, they needed to know if Boss Xiong and Su Yuqing had the intention to go to the Void Galaxy. After a day, the situation on the Bloody Fall planet had been completely stabilized. Ball's soul had been killed, and the demons of the ghost bats had retreated a long time ago. As for the thunder lizards led by Dark Thunder, it was impossible for them to cause any damage to the Bloody Fall planet under the leadership of the demigod Gaudi. Luo successfully regained control of planet Luo and gathered all the people of Emperor Luo's army. Very soon, Long Yu and the others found Luo, who had just finished his work in the residence of the mayor of Sky Cliff City. "Ha, you're back. I've just finished everything and am ready to go back." Luo stood up and greeted them with a smile. Seeing that Boss Xiong and Su Yuqing were in the group, he did not say the words Void Galaxy, but only over there. "We've already exchanged for the cultivation resources. Luo, tell them what they'll have to pay and what they'll get if they want to leave the battlefield and head to the other side. Our place is still lacking peak combat power, so we need trustworthy people to join us." Xiao Bai nodded at Luo and then stood aside, leaving everything to Luo to handle. He also handed the 5 items that he had exchanged for to Luo. Xiao Bai did this to reassure Long Yu and Red Oriole. After all, to Long Yu and Red Oriole, Xiao Bai was an outsider, and it was normal that they were worried about the training resources that he had exchanged from the army headquarters. If these resources were handed over to Luo, there would be no need to worry. To Long Yu and Red Oriole, Luo was one of their own, and there was no need to worry about other things. Therefore, Luo did not refuse. After all, he knew Xiao Bai's character. Having known Xiao Bai for a long time, it was indeed appropriate for him to temporarily take care of these resources. When he looked at the items in the storage rings, his expression changed slightly. Obviously, he did not expect Long Yu and the others to exchange for so many things. "Brother Luo, it's great that you're fine. Tell me, what are the conditions to lead the Emperor army away from the army? Since you've made the decision, I'll follow you, Boss Xiong was an honest man. Before coming here, he had been somewhat hesitant, but now that he saw that Luo was ready to lead the entire Emperor army away, he was relieved. "About that, if you want to join, I can talk to you about it. All in all, don't worry too much about the procedures. Senior Gaudi, a demigod, is on planet Luo right now. With Long Yu here, you only need to tell her. It's fine to leave the procedures to someone else. If you want to leave, just take your people and leave," Luo said with a smile. Chapter 1355. Luo's words put Boss Bear and Su Yuqing's minds at ease. After all, they were still worried that if they left, it would have a negative impact on their own species. But now it seemed that there was no need for them to worry about that, because Luo himself had led the Emperor Army Corps of the Blood Demon clan to that place, and he was not worried that it would have a negative impact on the Blood Demon clan. The two of them looked at each other, then nodded and said solemnly, "That's right. Let's join them. Since you have taken a liking to it, it must be a good place. Now that the decision had been made, the rest was easy. Little White and Luo told them about the situation in the Void Galaxy. The biggest advantage of that place was that there were no conflicts. They could cultivate in peace, and there was also the absolute beginning golden pool. The Violent Bear Demon Clan, where Boss Bear was from, mainly comprehended the divine characters of the Berserker attribute. The Immortal Fox Demon Clan, where Su Yuqing was from, comprehended the divine characters of the Charm attribute, which were derived from the absolute beginning power of the Wood attribute. Although neither of them had anything to do with the absolute beginning power of the Metal attribute, the absolute beginning golden pool was definitely very useful for them. Once they comprehended the absolute beginning power of the Metal attribute, as long as they had a fixed set of martial techniques, they would definitely be able to exert great power. However, if the members of the Violent Bear Demon Clan and the Immortal Fox Demon Clan wanted to comprehend the absolute beginning power of the Metal attribute, they might have to stay in the absolute beginning golden pool for a long time. Once they comprehended it, they would also be very powerful. The Void Galaxy was located hundreds of domains away from the territories of the Human Clan and the Demon Clan. It was very remote and should be located at the intersection of the territories of the Divine Water Clan, the Silverstone Clan, and the Soul Clan. Currently, the three foreign clans were in a state of peace, or rather, they were in a state of peace near the Void Galaxy. It was unknown whether there were battles in other places. At this stage, it was impossible for Long Yu and the others to leave the Void Galaxy to explore the surroundings. Previously, they had already taken a great risk by attaching detection arrays to the alchemy materials and flying out to explore. They could not do anything else for the time being. Now that they had decided to go, there were two more factions in the Void Galaxy. The White-Feathered Monstrous Clan, the Brutal Bear Monstrous Clan, the Immortal Fox Monstrous Clan, and the Blood Monstrous Clan were four great monstrous clans. Apart from the White-Feathered Monstrous Clan, which had over 100,000 clans, the other three great monstrous clans each had an Emperor Corps, each with around 10,000 soldiers. However, the overall fighting power of the White-Feather Monstrous Clan was definitely inferior to that of the three Emperor Legions. After all, the White-Feather Monstrous Clan had a lot of old and weak people. They did not have a lot of truly powerful fighting power. Furthermore, their individual fighting power was definitely inferior to that of the Emperor Legions. Since it's settled, we can leave now. There are only 4 hours left before the 3-day deadline. Boss Xiong, Su Yuqing, let's go. After Luo finished speaking, he got up and prepared to leave. Then what about the fallen Blood Star? Long Yu asked from the side. Bloodfall Star will be renamed soon. There will probably be another Emperor Commander station here. But don't worry. Things like Maru Hun and Dark Thunder causing trouble will not happen again. Luo smiled and said, Well, that's good. Long Yu nodded and said, Then bring them along. Let everyone improve their martial arts realm and fighting power. After saying this, Long Yu called Shi Ying Wu, Feng Yusin, Feng Xiaofei, Feng Haofeng, and the others out of the micro-world and asked them to go to the Void Galaxy first. Luo was quite familiar with these guys, so he did not mind. He raised his hand and sent them into the micro-world. Anyway, Long Yu would be returning soon, so there was no need to worry or say goodbye. All right, Brother Long, remember to look for my friend. The Void Galaxy is still lacking a top weaponsmith. If we can invite him, we'll be able to develop faster in all aspects. Moreover, that old man has a deep understanding of formations. That's enough. Xiao Bai patted Long Yu on the shoulder and said with a smile, I'll try my best. That was all Long Yu could say. He had heard from Xiao Bai that the weaponsmith senior had a strange temper, and he was not sure if he could persuade him. But of course, he would try his best no matter what. If the other party had any conditions, Long Yu would try his best to satisfy them. After joining the Demigod College, you can choose some training to do. During the training, your freedom will not be restricted, and you can do other things on the way. Luo thought for a moment, then said to Long Yu, if you want to invite that weapon refiner senior or go to the human domain to find your father, you can do both. Of course, This is only possible if the power you accept is on the way to the human domain. Okay, Long Yu nodded. Those were the two things he had to do next. Besides, he had to see what kind of training he could receive after joining the Demigod College. Long Yu was looking forward to the Demigod College. He wanted to know how much improvement this place could bring him. What's so special about the experience points that are released? Everything would be revealed in the near future. Shui Luo, Xiao Bai, Boss Bear, and Su Yuqing brought the resources they had exchanged from the army headquarters, the 10,000 members of the Emperor Army, Shi Yingwu, and Long Yu's people, and left the Shui Luo planet for the hidden space-time tunnel that led to the Void Galaxy. This Shui Luo planet would be renamed from now on. After Shui Luo left, the other Emperor Army would be stationed here and continue to serve the army on the battlefield. This was the fresh blood of the army on the battlefield against the demon race. It needed to be constantly replenished. Otherwise, the entire defense line in the Void Galaxy would have collapsed long ago. Long Yu and Red Oriole stayed in the City Lord's mansion of Sky Cliff City and watched the four of them leave. The City Lord's mansion was almost empty. All the members of the Emperor Army that Shui Luo was with had been taken away by Shui Luo. The army on the battlefield would probably send someone to take over soon. But I don't know how Man Xin and the others are doing. Long Yu was a little worried. Man Xin, Qihua, Beiyao, Gu Yi, Gu and Shan, and the others were probably training in the Void Galaxy. He hadn't seen them yet. Until now, no one had returned to see the Jade Slip Long Yu and the others had left behind. Long Yu and Red Oriole couldn't wait any longer. In any case, the next space-time passageway to the Void Galaxy would open in 3 months. Long Yu could wait for Man Xin and the others to gather, and then head over together. Now, the most important thing was to let Man Xin and the others know what was going on when they returned. Fortunately, the Jade Slip they had left behind had some information about the situation. Although it was only a rough outline, if Man Xin and the others saw it, they definitely wouldn't wander off. They would definitely stay and wait to meet up with the others. Let's go find Senior Gaudi. Long Yu and Red Oriole exchanged a look and nodded, preparing to leave. However, the two of them were obviously overthinking. The gaudy demigod of the heavenly bat demons had been observing them the whole time. Seeing that Little White and the others were leaving, he immediately appeared before Long Yu and Red Oriole. There's no need to look for me. I'm here. The middle-aged woman that the gaudy demigod had turned into broke the void and appeared before them. Then, she put on a smile on her plain face. Are you ready? The Demigod College is waiting for you. We can go now, Senior. Long Yu was not surprised that the woman could suddenly appear. After all, she was a demigod. Everything on the Bloody Fall planet couldn't escape her perception. As for the matter about the Void Galaxy, whether or not the gaudy demigod knew about it, as long as he was a demigod, he would consider the big picture of the entire demon race, just like the Black Tiger demigod landslide. Therefore, even if the gaudy demigod knew about the development of the Void Galaxy, he wouldn't have any objection, nor would he spread the news. Long Yu's trust in demigods was planted in his heart the moment he saw the gaudy demigod kill the Maroon Soul. This trust was not blind. He could see the spirit and obsession of sacrificing everything for the sake of his race from the gaudy demigod. It was exactly such determination that allowed the demigod experts to stand at the peak of the demon race and the human race and protect the demon race and the human race from the invasion of alien races. But if the determination were gone, it was possible that the situation would change immediately. Every demigod was a precious treasure for the demon race and the human race. They had their own duties. The Demigod Academy had its headquarters, which was not in the territory of the Demon Clan. Therefore, it was impossible for Shanbeng to take Long Yu and Red Oriole there. After all, Shanbeng had to be stationed in the Third Domain Galaxy to prevent the Ice God Clan's surprise attack from happening. Therefore, the gaudy demigod was sent from the demon race's territory to pick up Long Yu and Red Oriole. It was not hard to imagine the high position of the Demigod College in the demon race's territory. After all, it was the greatest hope of the demon race and the human race. Right now, There were 14 demigods in the human race and the demon race, and more than 10 of them were born in the demigod college. It was not hard to imagine that the training in the demigod college was very important and worthy of the attention of the demigods. I used to be a member of the demigod college. 300 years ago, I became a demigod and a demigod of the demon race. I hope that more and more demigod experts will emerge in the alliance of human beings and demons, or even surpass us and reach the peak of demigod. The gaudy demigod waved her hand and stored Long Yu and Red Oriole into her small world. Then, she gathered the power of time and space in her hand. Sensing the air of the mark, she blinked and disappeared. Chapter 1356. On his way here, the gaudy demigod had set up a space-time mark on the way. Therefore, he could teleport to the demigod college as quickly as possible through the space-time mark. It was a faster way than using the teleportation array. After long, you had a tier 1 honor badge. However, the cost was too high for everybody. The value of each space-time imprint was equivalent to a mysterious jade-level creation item. Unless it was an extremely urgent situation, very few people would use it. Only demigod experts could travel long distances with the space-time mark. Of course, if somebody was as wealthy as Long Yu and had exchanged so many items in the headquarters of the Legion, it was perfectly normal for them to travel with space-time marks. However, there weren't many such people in both the human race and the demon race. Where was the demigod college? The gaudy demigod didn't tell Long Yu and Red Oriole. He simply stored them in his small world and teleported them through the space-time mark. Long Yu and Red Oriole, who were in her small world, couldn't know what was going on in the outside world, nor did they know where she was teleporting to. Among the humans and demons, there were quite a few cultivators who had heard of the demigod college, but none of them knew where it was. Not just a few people, but none. Only the demigod experts and those who graduated from the demigod college knew where the demigod college was. Other than them, nobody knew where the demigod college was. It was a bit like the void galaxy that Long Yu and the rest of them were in right now. If he became famous in the future, many people would know of the void galaxy's existence. However, those people would never know where the void galaxy was. This caused Long Yu to have some guesses in his heart. Could it be that the headquarters of the Demigod Academy was also in a place outside the territory of the human clan and the demon clan? Of course, it was possible, and it wasn't small. However, Long Yu didn't know the details. He could only wait until they reached the place. Now that the gaudy demigod was leading them to the demigod college, all they needed to do was follow the arrangements. About 4 hours passed. Although Long Yu and Red Oriole couldn't sense what was happening in the outside world, they could sense that foppish teleportation had finally come to a halt. Foppish had stopped using the space-time imprint to teleport. The situation made the two of them guess that the demigods had arrived or would arrive soon. As expected, the two of them didn't have to wait long before Flamboyant's telepathic thoughts came into their heads. You can come out now. The headquarters of the demigods have arrived. This is your first time here, so we need to pick you up. Every cultivator who has gone through the previous trials will be given a transmission mark, which can open a small space-time tunnel and teleport you to this place. As the information was delivered to Long Yu's head, he and Red Oriole were released from the small world by the demigod Gaudi. The moment they opened their eyes, they saw a boundless, dark cosmos as well as a ring-shaped building in the middle of it. This ring-shaped building surrounded a ball of light, and that ball of light was the only source of light in the pitch-black starry sky. At a glance, one could tell that it was a very powerful source of power. This is the demigods. Long Yu and Red Oriole widened their eyes and observed the ball of light and the ring-shaped building around it. The ball of light was much larger than the fallen blood star. Looking from afar, it looked like a sun and emitted an extremely warm aura. It wasn't hard to imagine how enormous the ring-shaped building around the ball of light was. That's the demigods. In the middle is the source of revelation divine runes, which can't be found in regular places. Flamboyant flew to them and explained with a smile, Cultivators who are qualified to come to the demigods have no need for regular divine runes. I believe you are the same. However, the source of revelation divine runes is definitely a very precious treasure for you. The source of revelation divine runes. Hearing that, Long Yu and Red Oriole's eyes immediately lit up. Just as Flamboyant said, the regular source of divine runes might be hard to come by for other people, and they had to fight for every chance they had, but for Long Yu and Red Oriole, it was nothing at all. Among them, Red Oriole was born in the Blood Demon clan, and her father was the chief of the Blood Demon clan. She had studied a lot of sources of divine symbols in the Blood Demon galaxy in the first place, and cultivated many powerful divine symbols. Long Yu, on the other hand, had comprehended a lot of the Enlightenment-level divine script of 9 serenities, and the Void Spirit Dragon Dagger was entirely made up of the power of water. For Long Yu, comprehending the regular source of divine runes was of no use at all. However, the source of revelation divine runes was a completely different concept. First of all, the Enlightenment-level divine runes were existences that surpassed the power of the 5 elements. According to the legends, the ancient gods had successfully derived the power of the 5 elements of the primordial era. Needless to say, they were much more powerful than the power of the primordial era. Secondly, Long Yu had comprehended a certain aura of the power of the primordial era from the ball of sunlight. It was obvious that the source of revelation divine runes contained the Enlightenment-level divine runes derived from the power of the primordial era. It was indeed very useful for Long Yu. Right now, Long Yu had only come into contact with 2 kinds of Enlightenment-level divine runes. One of them was the Enlightenment-level divine script of 9 serenities, and the other was a certain kind of Enlightenment-level divine rune of the metal element that was contained in the stone statue he obtained from the primordial relics of the Multi-Wing clan. Both of them were derived from the power of the primordial era of the metal element. They were very destructive, but destructive power did not mean everything. The power of the primordial era of the water element was the power to control space and time. If one could grasp it, they would be able to travel through space and time. If one's attainments in space and time surpassed others, they would be invincible. Now, what appeared in front of Long Yu was the Enlightenment-level divine rune source derived from the power of the primordial era. If one could comprehend this Enlightenment-level divine rune, they would absolutely be able to rise to the next level in the power of space and time, even surpassing the vast majority of humans and monsters. Of course, for the current Long Yu to comprehend this Enlightenment-level divine rune, the difficulty was no different from ascending to the heavens. After all, he hadn't even comprehended the power of the primordial era of the water element, much less the higher-level Enlightenment-level divine rune that was derived from it. The reason that Long Yu was able to comprehend the Enlightenment-level divine rune was because he had obtained the 9 Nether Prison Tablet and also the inheritance of the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor. This was a major factor. Another reason was that his attribute was compatible with the primordial era of the metal element. So comprehending the power of the primordial era of the metal element was much easier. Even so, he had only comprehended a mere 30% of the Enlightenment-level divine rune, which showed how difficult it was to comprehend Enlightenment-level divine rune. If he were to directly comprehend the Enlightenment-level divine rune derived from the primordial era of the water element, Long Yu would probably only be able to comprehend 10% of it in a year, and the further he progressed, the more difficult it would be. This is still too difficult for me right now. Perhaps after I comprehend the primordial era of the water element, I could try to comprehend the power of this Enlightenment-level divine rune. Long Yu shook his head and sighed with emotion. That's right. In reality, even us demigods can't completely comprehend the power of this Enlightenment-level divine rune. Normally, we can comprehend 50%, but after that, it's extremely difficult to take another step forward. Up until now, no one has been able to do it. Gaudi shook his head with some regret. At the same time, he looked at the Enlightenment-level divine rune source that looked like a sun, a hint of reverence in his eyes. This divine rune source was discovered by us monsters and humans together, so it was used to build the Demigod Academy? Red Oriole asked curiously. No, this divine rune source was seized from the hands of the alien races. Speaking of this, Gaudi's tone became a little heavy. It was a war that took place thousands of years ago, and it is still recorded on the Demigod Academy's steel. It was an unparalleled battle between experts, and in order to fight for this divine rune source, our monster race and the human race paid a total of 8 demigods' lives. 8 demigods' lives. Hearing Gaudi's words, Long Yu and Red Oriole's expressions changed slightly. A war thousands of years ago had actually been so fierce, just to fight for this enlightenment-level divine rune source. Of course, Long Yu knew the importance of the enlightenment-level divine rune source, so he wasn't too surprised that demigods had fought for it. However, the fact that the human race and the monster race had won that battle seemed to indicate something. Perhaps you don't know this, but the reason the human race and the monster race's alliance is weak right now is because the other alien races around us have joined forces to deal with us a while ago. Gaudi shook his head. Fortunately, the experts of our 2 races resisted the pressure and held on until that incident happened. Only then did we have a chance to breathe. That incident? Of course, Long Yu didn't know the reason behind it, but neither did Red Oriole. It was obvious that this was an absolute secret between the human race and the monster race. It was only now that Long Yu and Red Oriole had entered the Demigod Academy that they were qualified to know about this matter. It must be noted that they were the geniuses of the human race and the monster race who were most likely to become demigods in the future. That is something that very few people in the human race and the demon race know about, the descent of the gods. Gaudi's expression was solemn. Of course, this is only what we've heard, because this incident didn't happen near the human race or the monster race's territory. It happened in the nearby alien race's territory instead. The outbreak of this incident caused those alien races to fight against each other, probably because they were fighting over some kind of treasure. That's why the human race and the monster race were able to buy us some time. Even now, those powerful alien races are still in a state of intense war. The descent of gods. Hearing this, Long Yu and Red Oriole's expressions immediately turned grave. As expected, this wasn't something that ordinary people had the right to know. Moreover, even a demigod like Gaudi had only heard some rumors about it and hadn't seen it with his own eyes. Chapter 1357. Even a demigod like Flamboyant was not clear about the descent of gods. She had only vaguely heard some information that she did not know was true. Thus, Gaudi didn't discuss this matter too much. Instead, he brought Long Yu and Red Oriole with him and flew towards the source of divine runes. The closer they got, the more they could feel the power of the source of divine runes. It contained the aura of water-type primordial power. It was essentially water-type primordial power, but because it had been refined by the hands of gods, it had become stronger than ordinary water-type primordial power. Around the source of divine runes was a ring-shaped building. It did not look like much from afar, but when they got closer, they found that the building was magnificent. The entire ring-shaped building was built with an icy white crystal, forming a ring of ice crystals. Long Yu had never seen such a material before, but it must be something extremely sturdy. At the very least, it was about the same grade as the building materials in the multi-winged clan's ancient ruins. After all, this was the Demigod Academy, and it could be said to be the core of the development of the entire human race and the demon race. Although Long Yu did not know where exactly it was, the various existences inside were definitely not things that could be seen in the outside world. When they got closer to the ring-shaped building, Long Yu realized that the building was actually very huge. It was not just a small ring of light from afar. It was small only when compared to the source of divine runes. When he got closer, Long Yu found that he was just a small black in front of the ring-shaped building. The entire building was the size of several battlefield fortresses. Such a huge building, and there are less than 100 members of the Demigod Academy in it. Red Oriole was a little surprised and could not help but ask. That's right. Each of you will have a very large space. In that space, all of your cultivation needs can be satisfied. While you're waiting for the trial, you can concentrate on cultivating, comprehending power, and so on in your own space, Flamboyant said with a smile. Flamboyant said with a smile. She then raised her hand and gathered the power of the water primordial realm in her palm, which then enveloped all three of them. As the water elemental power was activated, the three of them were directly teleported away. When they reappeared, they were already inside an icy white building. This was the ring-shaped building. Long Yu and Red Oriole subconsciously looked around and discovered that they were surrounded by icy white crystal walls that formed a crystalline passageway that led to an unknown location. The icy white color was somewhat dazzling, but also gave the two of them a sense of warmth. These icy white crystals were also gradually emitting a warm aura. Come with me. I'll arrange your personal space first. As for the first batch of trials in the demigods, they will arrive in 7 days. You'll be busy then. Flamboyant chuckled as he strode through the icy white passageway, maintaining a speed that Long Yu and Red Oriole could keep up with. The three of them advanced quickly. They were surrounded by icy white crystals. Occasionally, some special colors would appear. Those were some decorative patterns in the passageway. These decorative patterns seemed to be in the shape of green leaves, scattered all over the surrounding ice-white crystal walls, which made Long Yu feel a little strange. What are these green leaf patterns? Are they just for decoration? Long Yu asked curiously. Wrong. Flamboyant shook her head. This section is where the students of the other demigods live. Right now, we're only walking through the passageway. There are other students living around the passageway. These green leaves were created by one of the students of the Demigods Academy. Of course, she didn't do it on purpose. It's just that the power she wields is more active, so wherever she goes, there will be green leaf patterns and aura. You'll get used to it after a while. After saying this, Flamboyant did not stay where she was. Instead, she led the two of them forward. After listening to Flamboyant's explanation, Long Yu suddenly understood. However, he was also a little surprised that such a power actually existed in this world. Without a doubt, the icy white walls of the passageway were extremely sturdy. However, the power that the woman wielded was able to directly imprint patterns on the icy white walls. Who knew what kind of power that woman wielded? None of those who could come to the Demigods Academy were mediocre. Take Long Yu and Red Oriole, for example. There is no need to mention Long Yu himself, and Red Oriole was the beloved princess of the Blood Demon clan. Her cultivation talent was one of the best in the entire demon clan. Thinking about it this way, none of the other people in the Demigods Academy were that simple. After advancing for about 10 miles, the patterns of green leaves on both sides of the icy white walls gradually decreased until they completely disappeared. It seemed that the woman had been staying in that section of the wall recently and hadn't left to go anywhere else. Long Yu did not pay too much attention to this. Following Flamboyant, they soon arrived at a relatively secluded place. Just now, they had sensed the aura of some other people in the places that they had passed by earlier. But now, the place they had arrived at was extremely secluded, and there was no aura of anyone. This is the personal space that has been prepared for you. These are 2 divine rune keys. When you come near here and activate the divine rune keys, you'll be able to enter your personal space. While speaking, Flamboyant took out 2 keys condensed from the power of the divine runes. The 2 keys were very different in shape. One of them was blood red and contained the power of the blood red divine runes. Of course, it was prepared for Red Oriole. The other key was pitch black and was actually condensed from the power of the 9 Serenity's divine runes. Obviously, it was prepared for Long Yu. This surprised both Long Yu and Red Oriole again. They did not expect that Flamboyant would know exactly what kind of power they had comprehended and use it to create the divine rune keys. Such divine rune keys could not be activated by anyone other than themselves. Therefore, everyone's personal space in the Demigods Academy was absolutely safe. Even demigods could not force their way in. Long Yu and Red Oriole each held their own divine rune keys. Then, under Flamboyant's instructions, they directly activated their own power and injected it into the keys. The two divine rune keys lit up with a blood-red light and a pitch-black light, respectively. Then, the light enveloped the two of them, and the two of them disappeared from the corridor. Long Yu's eyes lit up. He had arrived in an extremely vast space. This space was not like a small world, but a space in the real world. He could feel that. This vast space was surrounded by icy white crystals. This was the most important component of the entire Demigods Academy. It's a pity that I haven't seen any other students yet. But no matter what, it's good to familiarize myself with the environment first. Long Yu thought to himself. He looked around and found that this space that belonged to him was absolutely empty. There was nothing in the space that was hundreds of kilometers in radius. It was just a square space surrounded by icy white crystals. If he had to point out something, it would be that in the center of this space, surrounded by icy white crystals, there were a few light balls condensed from the primordial power of the water element. Just now, Flamboyant briefly introduced that one could leave this space through these light balls, and they could also obtain the training resources they needed from the light balls. As for how the entire space was arranged, it was entirely up to the students. For example, the part of the path they had just passed was right next to the personal space of the woman who controlled the green leaves. In her personal space, it was very likely to be filled with green leaves. It was a scene of exuberant greenery. Everyone's personal space would develop into a completely different style in the end, which was related to the students' personalities and attributes. Long Yu thought for a moment. Since this place would belong to him from now on, there was no need for him to be restrained. He would first change this place to his liking. Flamboyant had just said that from now on, this place would always belong to them. Even if they died in the future, this place would never be taken back by the Demigods Academy. It would always be there. In that case, what he made of this space would have a great impact on Long Yu. He definitely couldn't touch the area around the central light ball. After all, that was the core of the entire space. But other than that, whatever he wanted to do in this space would be completely up to Long Yu. Some people like to enjoy life, so they would set up some things to enjoy in this space, such as hot springs, fine wine, pavilions, and so on. Some people like to train hard, so they would build arenas in this space. When they were free, they could invite others to come and fight with them, thereby increasing their actual combat experience. Long Yu didn't have any special fetishes. He just preferred peace and quiet. In such an empty space, he wouldn't create anything special. He first went to the central light ball of the water primordial power and probed it with his divine thoughts. He wanted to see what kind of training resources he could obtain in this place. In the end, he found that the training resources displayed in front of him were definitely not inferior to what the armies on the battlefield had. After casually searching for Holy Spirit origins, Long Yu discovered that there were quite a few high-grade Holy Spirit origins. These things could increase the regeneration rate of the heaven and earth spiritual chi in his pocket dimension by 10 times. They were definitely good things that were hard to come by. However, on the battlefield, there were very few high-grade Holy Spirit origins. In this kind of academy, the source of the Holy Spirit was extremely common. It was even divided into different attributes, so that the source of the Holy Spirit would be more compatible with the body of the cultivator, so that it could exert a stronger effect. The thing needed to exchange for these training resources was none other than the merits of the armies on the battlefield. The price was about the same as in the armies on the battlefield. Chapter 1358. This made Long Yu heave a sigh of relief. He still had a lot of Legion merits left. He hadn't used up the 5 million Legion merits that were given before, so he could choose now. Originally, Long Yu had a total of 5 million Legion merits. However, in the last 3 months, he had given out 500,000 Legion merits every month, so he had a total of 6,500,000. This was the benefit of a first-class honor badge. In the long run, it was very worth it. On average, Long Yu would be able to get 6 million battlefield merit points every year. It was equivalent to having a fifth or sixth phase dominator expert working for Long Yu. However, just these 6,500,000 Legion merits were not enough to exchange for a Holy Spirit source. Long Yu was currently eyeing a metal attribute Holy Spirit source. Apart from increasing the recovery rate of his small world's heaven and earth spiritual energy by 12 times, it could also allow his small world to continuously produce metal attribute primordial energy. This metal attribute primordial energy could be completely absorbed by Long Yu's small world. In this way, Long Yu would be able to constantly comprehend the metal attribute absolute beginning power, and he wouldn't need to spend any more time on it. This was the biggest benefit. Although the speed wasn't fast, and he couldn't completely comprehend the metal attribute absolute beginning power, it wouldn't be a problem for him to comprehend 30% of it in half a year. This caused Long Yu to take a liking to this heavenly spirit source with a single glance. However, this kind of special high-grade heavenly spirit source was extremely expensive, reaching 13 million Legion merit points. This was a bit difficult for Long Yu, because he had just reached half of this value. This place should also be able to exchange things for Legion merits. Let me see if there is anything I can take out to exchange, Long Yu thought to himself. He searched in his small world and quickly found something. It was an ice crystal that he found in the remains of the demigod's small world of the ice god race. This ice crystal was called Ice Essence. It was something that could increase the power of ice attribute abilities. It was extremely precious. When Long Yu absorbed the same space essence, his path of 9 serenities had the special effect of corroding the power of space. It was not hard to imagine the value of such space essence. If one were to calculate, the value of an ice essence could be exchanged for a few million army merit points. If it reached 5 million, it would be just enough for Long Yu to exchange for the metal Holy Spirit source. If the ice essence was put into the congenital technique fruit of ice attribute, the congenital technique would be at least 2 or 3 times more powerful. If the attributes match, the actual combat ability of the practitioner would be greatly improved. Thinking about that, Long Yu did not hesitate. He activated the 9 serenities key in his hand and returned to his personal space, where he found Gaudi, who had not left yet. "Senior, please wait a moment. I have a question to ask you. Can I use this ice essence to exchange for battlefield army merit?" Long Yu took out the ice essence and asked Gaudi. Gaudi seemed to have just met other people and was about to leave, but he stopped after hearing Long Yu's question. He nodded and smiled. "Of course you can, but I didn't know that you had such a great thing as ice essence. Many students in the demonic colleges have grasped congenital techniques of the ice attribute. I suggest that you auction it when everybody is gathered in 3 days. It will be better that way." "Thank you for your advice, Senior." Long Yu nodded. In that case, he was not in a hurry to exchange it. The price he could sell it for in an auction would be higher than what he could get by exchanging it directly. Although he had a lot of things, he did not want to waste them. Those who could enter the demonic colleges were all geniuses and talented in martial arts. If every one of them was Long Yu, it would be obvious that some of them did not lack Legion merits at all. With that in mind, Long Yu was quite looking forward to the price of the ice essence in 3 days. Of course, he was also looking forward to meeting other people in the demonic colleges. Only by staying with the strong could he motivate himself to become stronger. As for the 3 days of waiting, it should be because the other students had not all returned yet. It was said that there would be a break after every round of training in the demonic colleges, which was the time for students to move freely. Right now, it was time for vacation. It belonged to the period of time before the next round of training began. Once all the students had gathered, the next round of training would begin. Long Yu was not in a hurry. He could use the 3 days to tinker with his personal space. This place was very spacious, and he could change the place to his liking. He did not disturb Red Oriole. Instead, he returned to his personal space and began to build. The simplest way was to gather resources in his own small world, create the things he wanted, and then transfer them to his personal space. Long Yu did not have any requirements for his personal space. It was just that it did not look good in such an empty space. So, he made some mountains and rivers and made his personal space into a bare mountain range. The water element light ball in the center was the core of his personal space. Long Yu built a floating palace to protect it. The floating palace was reinforced by Long Yu with first-class divine crystals. Now that he was an expert in the sovereign mystic realm, he could smelt divine crystals himself. However, he did not have the time to do so. The divine crystals he had were all looted a while ago. For example, on the battlefield of the foreign races, he had obtained a lot of divine crystals from the ancient foreign race ruins of the multi-winged race. However, he did not pay much attention to them at that time. After all, they were not that valuable to him now. He did not expect that they would come in handy now. Although they were not very useful, it was better to reinforce them a little. If he did not reinforce them at all, Long Yu would not feel at ease. Of course, it was basically impossible for enemies to attack this place. If that happened, Long Yu's palace reinforced with first-class divine crystals would not be able to resist at all. 3 days passed. Long Yu had been training in his personal space for a while, sorting out his future direction of training. During this time, he did not meet Red Oriole. After all, she was a girl. Red Oriole should be frantically decorating her personal space. As for Long Yu, he was not interested. The gaudy demigod had sent another notice. Today was the annual assembly day of the Demigod College. It was the only day that all the students of the Demigod College could gather together. Therefore, on this day, the entire Demigod College could be said to be the liveliest. Of course, there were only 100 people in total. It was not lively at all. However, this was indeed the time when there were the most people. According to Gaudy Demigod, there were only 4 new students in the Demigod College this year, including Long Yu and Red Oriole. It was less than the number of students who died in the training last year. This made Long Yu feel a little embarrassed. He did not expect that a place like the Demigod College could have 5 deaths every year. It seemed that the training proposed by the Demigod College was very difficult. Otherwise, a genius like Red Oriole would not have died in it. This also made Long Yu put away his usual relaxed attitude. At least, he had to treat the following training with the most serious attitude. The difficulty of the training in the Demigod College was probably no less than the ancient relic of the multi-winged race. The more difficult the training, the more the cultivator's strength would increase after passing it. If they only cultivated in peace, then their combat ability would not increase. The environment in the void was the best for training, but everyone could not stay there all the time. They had to choose some time to come out and train. This could be left for later. At the current stage, many people's martial arts realm was still too low. The efficiency of training in the outer regions was also very low. If they could improve their cultivation, they would gain more. On the appointed day, Long Yu came out of his personal space and met up with Red Oriole. Red Oriole happened to appear at this time. Long Yu asked with a smile, "How is the decoration of your personal space? You want to know? Come in and take a look. You will know." Red Oriole smiled mysteriously. She came over and pulled Long Yu, directly activating her blood-red divine rune key. Then, with the power of spatial divine runes, the two of them were sent into her personal space. When he opened his eyes, Long Yu was really shocked. This place was actually Red Oriole's personal space. In the past, Long Yu had thought that Red Oriole's personality was more unrestrained and probably did not like the things that ordinary girls liked, but now it seemed that he was wrong. What entered his eyes was a plane that slowly rose and fell. On the plane was a colorful sea of flowers that swayed along with the gentle breeze. Waves of refreshing fragrance assailed his nostrils. "I remember that you are not someone who likes flowers." Long Yu held his chin and seriously considered this question. When they were chatting, he had heard from Shui Luo that Red Oriole had always been a cultivation maniac. Otherwise, no matter how talented she was, she would not have been able to cultivate to the great ruler realm in her 20s. This was practically a heaven-defying existence. Shui Luo had also said that Red Oriole's bedroom had never had anything that ordinary girls liked. It was all filled with murderous weapons and the like. But now that they were here, Red Oriole had actually turned her personal space into a sea of flowers. Sometimes we should change up our styles, right? Red Oriole pursed her lips and smiled. Do you like it? You're finally a little more feminine. Long Yu smiled as he courted death. Do you want to die? Red Oriole was instantly enraged. She directly pushed Long Yu into the sea of flowers. Chapter 1359. The Demigod Academy finally welcomed another gathering of students. When Long Yu and Red Oriole came out of their personal space and arrived at the assembly hall of the Demigod Academy, they found that there were already a lot of people there. The entire building of the Demigod Academy was made of ice-white crystals. Of course, the assembly hall was the same. There were already about 20 people in the hall, scattered and chatting in twos and threes. Of course, most of them were alone. There were at least a dozen of them who had found a corner to rest with their eyes closed. As soon as Long Yu and Red Oriole stepped into the hall, the eyes of these people focused on them. Obviously, they had seen two new faces and were a little curious about them. In fact, there were new people joining the Demigod Academy every year. These new people were, of course, the focus of everyone. That was because the goal of the Demigod Academy was to cultivate new demigod experts. Many of the old students had exhausted their potential, but they still couldn't become demigods. It could even be said that even if they joined the Demigod Academy, the possibility of them becoming demigods was less than 1%. Therefore, when the hope of the old students was slim, they naturally turned their eyes to the new students and had high hopes for them. A second phase great ruler and a lesser ruler. These two guys, isn't that guy Long Yu? The one who was in the limelight in the battle against the Ice God clan. Indeed, that beauty must be the princess of the Blood Demon clan. Not bad, not bad. She's quite pretty, but unfortunately, she's already taken. What a pity, haha. The people of the Demigod Academy immediately recognized who Long Yu and Red Oriole were. That was normal. As members of the Demigod Academy, they naturally knew the matters of the alien race's battlefield very well. Although they didn't participate in that battle, they still heard the name of Long Yu, a key figure in the important battle against the Ice God clan. I heard that there are 4 new people this year. I wonder who the other 2 are, someone said with a hint of curiosity. Someone said with a curious tone. It was obvious that the other 2 hadn't gathered yet. Welcome to the Demigod Academy, you 2. My name is Jade. I've been in the Demigod Academy for 12 years. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me directly. At that moment, a young man with a long braid walked over to Long Yu and Red Oriole with a smile. This young man was wearing black tights and black tights. His forehead was shiny, and he had a long braid on the back of his head. Judging from his aura, he was already a 7th phase dominator. His strength shouldn't be any weaker than Consort Yu. Of course, Long Yu wouldn't ignore the other party's friendly greeting. I'm Long Yu, and this is Red Oriole. Hello, Senior Azure Jade. Long Yu smiled and introduced himself. Come. Follow me. I'll take you to see our boss. Jade chuckled and directly invited the 2 of them to follow him. This caused the 2 of them to be somewhat puzzled. Boss, you guys don't know yet, right? Seeing that the 2 of them were confused, Jade said in a low voice, the demigods are divided into 2 factions. The 2 factions compete with each other and cooperate with each other. But at the end of the day, most of the time, they're still fighting against each other. Cough, cough. Right now, our boss's faction has the advantage. If you guys join us, the benefits will be pretty good. Hearing this braided young man in black tights say this, Long Yu and Red Oriole were a little embarrassed. So this guy was here to recruit people. However, Long Yu didn't expect the demigods to be divided into 2 factions. But then again, it was normal. It was the same everywhere. With a faction fight, there would be some competition between the 2 sides, which could stimulate the growth of both sides. Sometimes, having 2 factions wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Then let's go take a look. Red Oriole narrowed her eyes. She had just arrived anyway, and she didn't know anyone. It didn't matter if she met the other party's so-called boss. Long Yu nodded in agreement. Then, Qil and Jade led the two of them to the center of the assembly hall. As soon as Long Yu and Red Oriole entered the assembly hall, they discovered that there were a few people gathered in the center of the hall. They seemed to be divided into two factions, and they were quietly confronting each other. Although neither side said anything, the entire scene was quite oppressive. The leader of one faction was a man, and the leader of the other was a woman. The man had a graceful bearing. He wore a wide robe, and his long hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes were like blades, and he was undoubtedly a seventh-rank sovereign. The woman wore an icy white robe, and she seemed to be one with the hall. Her whole body emitted an icy aura, and her eyes were like ice swords, sharp and spirited. Her skin was like snow, and her face was extremely beautiful. Both sides were seventh-rank sovereigns. In terms of aura, the man and woman were completely evenly matched. Moreover, the man was clearly stronger than Qil and Jade. Although they were both seventh-rank sovereigns, their strength was different. Long Yu seemed to feel a bit of pressure from the demigod aura coming from the man and woman. These two are probably not far from the demigod level, as expected of the leaders of the two factions in the Demigod Academy. Long Yu thought to himself, but he didn't speak carelessly. Qil and Jade brought the two of them to the center and introduced them to the people in the center. This is Long Yu, the key figure in the battle against the Ice God clan. This is Red Oriole, a genius from the Blood Demon clan. You two, this is our boss, Yufeng. Qil and Jade introduced the elegant man to Long Yu and Red Oriole. He introduced the leader of one of the factions in the Demigod Academy. Although he was the leader, the man called Yufeng didn't put on any airs. When he saw Long Yu and Red Oriole walking over, he stood up and smiled at them. Hello, welcome to the Demigod Academy. From today on, the two of you will be training here. Of course, if you want to leave the Demigod Academy, you can do so at any time. However, I don't think there is any place with a better training environment than the Demigod Academy, the elegant man said with a smile. The elegant man, Yufeng, said with a smile. He glanced at Long Yu's body and suddenly said, I've always been curious about what kind of person could last so long in the hands of three demigods. Now that I've seen you with my own eyes, I finally understand. Understand what? Long Yu was a little surprised. The man's words really made his heart itch. Could it be that the man could see something special about him that was different from ordinary people just by looking at him? Aura. Yufeng smiled and said, although you only have the cultivation of a lesser sovereign, you don't have the slightest aura of a weakling. Look at you now. Even when you are with so many greater sovereigns, you don't seem to be weak at all. This is your personal aura. Don't underestimate this aura. When you also step into the greater sovereign realm, your aura will be even stronger. Maybe you can surpass all of us here. That's right. The beautiful woman who had been sitting at the side glanced at Long Yu and also smiled. In fact, a person's aura is closely related to their mental state. It can be seen that your mental state is very good. Of course, mental state can't decide everything. Some people firmly believe that they can step into the demigod realm, but in reality, their aura isn't very strong. This is because they don't know what their talent is, but you seem to be different. I didn't expect the two of you to have such a high opinion of me. Long Yu smiled and shook his head. He didn't refute, nor did he get carried away. He knew very well where his confidence came from. In the beginning, he inherited the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor's inheritance. Now, he had the 9 Hell Tablet as a small world. These were innate conditions that made him stronger than others. Even a 7th phase greater sovereign would be unable to kill him now. As long as he hid in the 9 Hell Tablet, he would definitely be like a turtle and no one would be able to deal with him. Unless it was a demigod master who made a move, all demigod masters would have some extraordinary methods. Even if Long Yu hid in the 9 Hell Tablet, it would still be very difficult to defend against them. For example, the ostentatious demigod. Before, he directly captured the Ball Soul and the Ghost Bat Demon Clan's young master from Long Yu Small World. This kind of method was definitely not something a greater sovereign-level cultivator could do. What we said is the truth. Right now, you could choose one of our two factions to join. In the future, when you train, we can move together. Imperial Wind smiled and said, "Let me introduce myself. I'm called Imperial Wind, and the one beside me is called Frost. In terms of martial arts, the two of us should be the most experienced in the Demigod Academy. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask us for guidance. After all, you can't trouble Demigod seniors for everything." Imperial Wind, Frost, the leaders of the two factions of the Demigod Academy. Imperial Wind was the elegant young man, and Frost was the cold beauty. Of course, in reality, Frost wasn't especially cold. She treated people very well. After Imperial Wind finished speaking, Frost followed up, "It doesn't matter who you choose. We are only competing. Everything is for the sake of increasing our own strength. Speaking of which, Red Oriole, the power of your Blood Demon clan has always been a bit strange. The strange aura on your body seems to be even denser. Furthermore, it just happens to be similar to the power of another person in our faction. Why don't you join our faction?" Frost turned her head to look at Red Oriole and invited her. Hearing this, Red Oriole froze. She actually wanted to join the same faction as Longyu. After all, the two of them could look after each other. However, the power in her body was indeed strange. She used to have the 6 demon blood wings as a divine item of the absolute beginning era. A part of the power in the 6 demon blood wings didn't belong to any of the divine characters. She also didn't know what kind of absolute beginning era power it was derived from. This problem was something that even the Blood Demon clan leader didn't know. It should have something to do with the ancient bloodline of the Blood Demon clan. However, it was too long ago, and the entire Blood Demon clan didn't have any records of it. If this part of the power could be improved, Red Oriole's strength would definitely increase by another level. Chapter 1360. Since Frost faction had people with powers similar to Red Orioles, then Red Oriole joining them was a good choice. It would be beneficial for her future development. As for Longyu, he didn't seem to have any special requests. If Red Oriole joined Frost faction, then Longyu would join as well. Thinking of this, Longyu said to Red Oriole, "I'll go wherever you go." When Red Oriole heard this, she didn't feel any pressure anymore. She asked Frost, "Where is that senior with powers similar to mine? She hasn't arrived yet. I'll introduce her to you in a bit." Frost smiled faintly and didn't say anything else. When Imperial Wind saw this, he didn't say anything else. Although he admired Longyu and wanted Longyu to join his faction, since Longyu had already made their choice, there was no point in saying anything else. This year, there are a total of 4 new students. Since Longyu and Red Oriole have gone to your side, the other 2 will be mine. Imperial Wind and Frost said. Just now, the 2 of them didn't talk much, so it didn't show anything. But when they started talking, it was obvious that they were ready to fight. Between Imperial Wind and Frost, there seemed to be a strong rivalry, sure. Frost looked at Imperial Wind, but her eyes didn't carry any emotion. It was impossible to tell what kind of relationship she had with Imperial Wind. After the 2 sides came to an agreement, they both retreated. Longyu and Red Oriole stood by Frost's side. Beside Frost was a girl wearing sky blue clothes. She had probably just arrived at the Demigod Academy not long ago. Right now, she was only at the 3rd level ruler level. "Hello, I'm Moonsong. I also came to the Demigod Academy last year. In a bit, I'll introduce you to everyone in Frost faction." The girl smiled sweetly. "Many thanks." Longyu nodded. Looking around, Longyu found that there were about the same number of humans and demons in the Demigod College. However, it was strange that the 2 major factions in the Demigod College were not divided according to races, which was a bit strange. However, the human race and the demon race had been allies for countless years, so it was completely normal for such a situation to occur. The girl called Moonsong first introduced the people beside Frost, giving Longyu and Red Oriole a bit of an impression of them. Afterwards, as more and more people entered the large hall, Moonsong introduced the two of them. After all, she had been here for a year, so she was familiar with most of the people here. Even if some of them only showed up at the annual student assembly and went about their business alone, she could still recognize them. After all, there were only a little more than 90 people in the entire demigod college, and it was quite easy for cultivators in the sovereign secret realm to remember the names of 90 people. Soon, two people, one dressed in black and the other in white, walked into the large hall. It was a man and a woman. Although they looked very calm, they were still quietly looking around. As soon as these two people appeared, Moonsong immediately paused. Then, she covered her mouth and laughed lightly. Looks like these two are the other two new people this year. So they're the twins of the twin demon race. The young man was dressed in black, while the young woman was dressed in white. The two of them, one in black and one in white, seemed to match very well. They didn't seem out of place at all. Twin demon race. Longyu narrowed his eyes. Before, when he and Red Oriole had been chatting, they had occasionally mentioned this race. This race was indeed an indispensable race in the demon territory. This was because of the 7 demigods in the demon territory. One of them belonged to the twin demon race. The twin demon race's characteristics were very strange. They were born as a male and a female, and their thoughts were completely linked together. Whatever the other person was thinking, they could instantly and clearly understand it. Such two people could cooperate very well in battle. Under the same level of strength, it wouldn't be a problem even if it was 2 against 3. This was also the strength of the twin demon race. When the twin demon race returned to their original demonic form, they would merge into one and become a two-hearted bird. Their combat ability wasn't strong, but their speed was extremely fast, and they had a great understanding of the power of the divine symbols of space. Right now, one of the 7 demigods in the territory of the demon race was a two-hearted bird. However, it was a two-hearted bird that could no longer transform into a human form, because one of its hearts had been completely destroyed in a certain battle. It was also after that battle that the two-hearted bird finally broke through to the demigod level. It was a pity that the most important person in her life had already passed away. The two-hearted bird only had one heart left, and no one was with her anymore. On the battlefield of the outsiders, the twin demon race's combat ability was also an extremely important part. Now that the younger generation of the twin demon race had appeared in the Demigod Academy, it wasn't strange at all. This man and woman's current cultivation level was even lower than Longyu's. They were only 4-star monarchs. Both of them were 4-star monarchs. However, it could be seen that they were very young. They looked to be about 15 or 16 years old. Interesting, this is the first time I've seen someone so young chosen to enter the Demigod Academy. Frost squinted her eyes at the side. It was clear that she was quite interested in this pair of geniuses from the twin demon race. It was a pity that she had already made an agreement with Yufeng. These two people were going to join Yu Feng's faction. The young man with the long braids, Qing Qilin Jade, hurriedly ran over. Just like how he had welcomed Long Yu and Red Oriole, he went in front of the twin demon race and began to swindle them. Very quickly, Qing Qilin Jade brought the young man and the young woman to the center of the assembly hall and stood in front of Yufeng. Yufeng stood up and smiled gently. His demeanor was elegant. He casually said a few words and introduced Long Yu, Red Oriole, and Frost to them. Afterwards, he accepted the two people into his faction. After learning of Long Yu's identity, the black-clothed young man couldn't help but look at Long Yu a few more times. It was clear that he had also heard of Long Yu's achievements. At that time, when Long Yu had stalled the 3 demigods of the outsiders, he was also at the level of the Emperor. However, he had done such an earth-shattering thing that shook the entire demon territory. This made the young black-clothed young man admire Long Yu for a long time. Looking at his eyes, it was as if he wanted to run over to Long Yu's side right now or join Yu Feng's faction with Long Yu. However, in the end, he still had a competitive heart. Ever since he was young, he had always been the strongest. He felt that he wouldn't be any weaker than Long Yu. The reason why Long Yu was so strong was completely because he had encountered a good opportunity. Right now, in the Demigod Academy, we are at the same starting point. I will surpass you. The black-clothed young man looked at Long Yu and sent a telepathic message to him. This made Long Yu a little puzzled. He hadn't done anything yet, and now a competitor had appeared out of nowhere. Although competition was a good thing, Long Yu had never competed with someone whose realm was lower than his. This kind of competition was meaningless to Long Yu because he would definitely win. Even if the other party was a rare genius of the twin demon race, Long Yu wouldn't back down. He was already a lesser sovereign realm expert. These two brats only had the cultivation of 4-star emperor. It was basically impossible for them to catch up to Long Yu. Whether it was in terms of cultivation or combat strength, Long Yu wouldn't lose to the other party. Of course, the other party had the bloodline of the twin demon race. When the two of them joined hands, they were quite powerful. If the other party also entered the sovereign secret realm, their strength wouldn't be any weaker than the current Long Yu. Tian Qingma, Tian Qingxue, in the future, you will be members of my Imperial Wind faction. In the process of training, you will definitely have conflicts with Long Yu. At that time, there will be plenty of opportunities for you to compete. Imperial Wind couldn't help but laugh. He could see that the twin demon young man was competing with Long Yu. At this time, almost all the students of the Demigod College had arrived. Then, the flamboyant demigod descended from the center of the field and announced that the year's Demigod College training would officially begin tomorrow. All the training would be posted in the assembly hall. Any training could be accepted individually, as a group, or even through competition. Completing any training could increase the military merit of the battlefield. The training missions issued by the Demigod College were much more difficult than those issued by the Battlefield Legions. After all, the training missions issued by the Battlefield Legions were ordinary mercenaries who made a living on the battlefield. However, the training missions issued by the Demigod College could only be completed by the elites of the entire human race and the demon race. They were also very dangerous and had a high mortality rate. Tomorrow was the day when the training missions of the Demigod College would be released. Long Yu glanced around and found that most of the students of the Demigod College were rather excited. They seemed to be looking forward to the upcoming training very much. Their mood was understandable. After all, completing the training missions would grant them a lot of military merit, which they could exchange for things they needed. In the Demigod College, there were much more types of training resources that could be exchanged than in the outside world. The best quality was also better than in the outside world. Take the source of the Holy Spirit, for example. In the outside world, Long Yu could only exchange for the advanced source of the Holy Spirit. But in this place, he could exchange for the source of the Holy Spirit with special effects, which was many times more valuable than in the outside world. As for now, you can all communicate with each other. If there's anything you want to exchange or auction, you can also come to the stage. In fact, the Demigod College is just a platform for everyone to exchange experiences. After saying that, the flamboyant demigod stood at the center of the assembly hall and looked around. Long Yu thought of something. Was this the auction that the flamboyant demigod was talking about? The ice crystal should be taken out now. However, Long Yu had just arrived at the Demigod College, and he didn't want to be so ostentatious. He'd better wait for the others to go up first. I have a cultivation jade scroll of the human race's unbounded martial skill here. If you want it, you can exchange it with the demon race's unbounded martial skill, or you can pay enough military merit. Very soon, a skinny demon cultivator went up. He was obviously a level 5 great dominator. He must have been in the Demigod College for a long time. He seemed to be very familiar with everything in the assembly hall. Chapter 1361. The cultivation jade slips for unbounded level martial skills were definitely very valuable. Even though Long Yu had traded so many demigod corpses of unknown alien races, one of the options he could get was only 12 unbounded level martial skills. An unbounded level martial skill, even a low-tier one, was very rare. It wasn't something that could be obtained easily. The fact that this demon cultivator had to show that he had come across some good fortune, something that not everyone in the Demigod Institute had. Many people looked at him enviously. However, no one had an unbounded level martial skill that they could trade with him. Someone made a bid with Legion merits, and the price soon exceeded 10 million. It seemed that there were a lot of rich people in the demigod college. Not long after, the cultivation jade slip for the unbounded level martial skill was sold for 12 million legion merits, which was almost equivalent to a special high-quality source of Holy Spirit. Long Yu thought for a moment, and then walked onto the stage. He had frost essence to sell, which could enhance the power or effect of the innate techniques of the ice attribute. It was very useful for ice attribute cultivators. It could even be said that the demand for it would never decrease, because a cultivator had 7 connate mystique fruits. As long as the cultivator was an ice attribute cultivator, all 7 connate mystique fruits would be of the same ice attribute. In other words, if he took the extreme route, he would need as many as 7 connate mystique fruits. It was impossible to produce so many connate mystique fruits in a year. Therefore, it was basically impossible for the younger generation to collect 7 frost essences. Even someone with a status like Red Oriole couldn't afford so many frost essences. Even if he did buy them, the daily operations of the entire Blood Demon clan would be very difficult due to the huge outflow of funds. Long Yu had just observed that there were at least 5 or 6 natural ice attribute cultivators in the entire demigod college, including the leader of Frost faction, the Cold Woman Frost. Presumably, this frost essence should be able to be sold for quite a number of army contribution points. When that time came, Long Yu could just exchange it for a special metal-type Holy Spirit source. It was still very important to him. Long Yu went up the stage and did not waste any time. He immediately took out the frost essence, looked around, and said, "The frost essence is for sale. You can exchange it for a special Holy Spirit source or exchange it with army contribution points." Many people have been wondering what good things the boy could have when he had just joined the demigods. Now that they saw it, they were all rather shocked. Frost essence was not something that could be easily obtained. Even in the demigods college, it was already good enough to produce 1 essence item in a year of training. Frost essence, flame essence, spatial essence, weight. Those items were all very rare and in high demand. It must be noted that Long Yu and Red Oriole had explored half of the debris of the demigod world of the Ice God clan. Of the 4 fruits of natural techniques, only 2 contained essence. If even a demigod couldn't gather enough, then there was no need to talk about other people. It was definitely as valuable as an unbounded level martial skill. Judging from what happened just now, the people in the demigod colleges were all rich, especially when there was competition. It should be enough to sell the ice essence to make up for the lack of origin of holy spirits that Long Yu wanted to exchange for. As expected, when the frost essence appeared, many people's eyes lit up, including the leader of Frost faction, the beautiful girl, Frost. Frost's entire body was filled with an icy aura. She must have been born with a constitution that was extremely compatible with the ice god glyphs. Now that she saw the frost essence, she would naturally be very interested. Apart from that, there were also new students who had just joined the Demigods College like Long Yu. They were the male and female twin demons. The girl was also extremely compatible with the ice god glyphs. At this moment, she also revealed a desire for the frost essence. The other students who were compatible with the ice god glyphs also revealed similar expressions. But when they looked at Frost, they could only sigh and guess that they probably wouldn't be able to get it. But whether or not they could get the spear, they still had to try. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to get over it. As for not being as rich as Frost, there was nothing they could do about it. The first to speak wasn't Frost, but the new student like Long Yu, the female twin demon, Tian Qingxue. We have a special Holy Spirit source here, but I don't know if it meets your requirements. Tian Qingxue was moved when she saw the frost essence. Hearing Long Yu's conditions, she took out her own item. It was a special Holy Spirit source. This Holy Spirit source was the same as the metal-type Holy Spirit source that Long Yu had found in the Demigods College, but it was of the water type. In other words, if he merged this Holy Spirit source into his own small world, Long Yu would naturally be able to gradually comprehend the water-type power of Absolute Beginning. In about half a year, he would be able to comprehend 30% of the water-type power of Absolute Beginning. Water-type power of Absolute Beginning metal-type power of absolute beginning. These two types of power of absolute beginning were the main directions that Long Yu was currently cultivating. Metal-type was the main element, and water-type was the support. They complemented each other and couldn't be left out. Of course, right now, Long Yu hadn't even begun to comprehend these two types of power of absolute beginning yet. What he had comprehended was only the power of the god glyphs derived from these two types of power of absolute beginning. Water type, metal type. Long Yu narrowed his eyes. It was really difficult to choose between these two Holy Spirit sources. But after careful consideration, he realized that the water-type Holy Spirit source was definitely less useful to him than the metal-type Holy Spirit source. For now, the people that he had come into contact with and participated in the operations were all existences with extremely high martial realms. They were either great sovereigns or demigods. Therefore, the metal-type power of absolute beginning wasn't very useful. Because the gap between the two sides was too huge, Long Yu's frontal combat ability was basically useless. But it will be different in the future. As long as Long Yu's martial realm caught up, frontal combat ability will be the most important thing for him. Now, he had the Void Spirit Dragon Dagger and a powerful technique like the Book of Shadows. He didn't need to worry too much about escaping or pursuing enemies. Even if he comprehended the water-type power of absolute beginning, the improvement wouldn't be too great. However, the metal-type power of absolute beginning was different. As long as he comprehended the metal-type power of absolute beginning, the power of most of his techniques would be greatly improved. Moreover, comprehending the metal-type power of absolute beginning would make it easier for him to comprehend the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text. Also, the Revelation Level Divine text in the stone statue that he had obtained from the ancient ruins of the multi-winged race was also derived from the metal-type power of absolute beginning. What Long Yu lacked now was the ability to fight head-on. Therefore, after some consideration, he still needed the metal-type Holy Spirit source. After all, only one Holy Spirit source could be integrated into a small world. Otherwise, there would be conflicts between them, and the loss would outweigh the gain. The water-type Holy Spirit source isn't very useful to me. Long Yu thought for a moment before replying to Tian Qingxue. A look of disappointment naturally appeared on the young lady's face. Then, she said, then we only have 8 million battlefield merit points. If no one else bids, we can accept this price. The people of the twin demon race basically used the word we instead of I when they spoke. At the beginning, no one would be used to communicating with them. However, Long Yu naturally accepted it. 8 million battlefield merit points. Are there any higher bids? 9 million. A black-clothed young man who had been standing alone at the edge of the assembly hall made a bid. This person didn't have much of a presence, but he didn't have some special characteristics like Little White. He just didn't want others to notice him. Therefore, this black-clothed young man stood alone at the edge of the assembly hall and watched everything without participating. 7th Phase Dominator. So powerful. Long Yu glanced at the black-clothed young man and realized that he was a 7th Phase Dominator. He secretly calculated that about 1/3 of the people in the entire Demigod College were 7th Phase Dominators. Not all of these people had been in the Demigod College for a long time. After all, the Demigod College only cared about talent and not cultivation. Some people's talent didn't show until they reached the Dominator realm, so it was normal for them to be recruited at the Dominator realm. There were even people who entered the Demigod College after reaching the 7th Phase Dominator realm. Therefore, the cultivation of the students of the Demigod Academies was basically uneven. However, one thing was certain, and that was that the 7th Phase Great Dominators of the Demigod Academies were definitely the strongest existences below the demigod level in the human race and demon race territory, just like Yu Fei. After the 7th Phase Dominator made a bid, the others didn't hesitate at all. After all, many of the people here had a constitution and talent that was compatible with the ice element. They all needed the ice essence. With the ice essence, the power of their most important innate divine abilities would instantly increase by 2 or 3 times. This kind of temptation was definitely worth it. The black-clothed young man made a bid of 9 million. The new student of the twin demon race, Tian Qingxue, was a bit disappointed because she couldn't take out any more battlefield merit points. Seeing the price soar to 11 million, Frost finally made a bid, 12 million. This price was about the same as the unending rank martial skill. However, to Frost, this price wasn't the limit. In terms of value, the ice essence and the unending rank martial skill each had their own merits. The price was also related to whether it was suitable or not. If Long Yu took out a power essence that wasn't suitable for anyone here, then he probably wouldn't even be able to sell it for 5 million. After Frost made a bid of 12 million battlefield merit points, many people quieted down. Only the black-clothed young man thought for a bit and raised the price to 13 million. Chapter 1362. 13 million Legion merit points. That was more than the price of that unbounded martial skill. In the end, there were just too many people here who needed the frigid essence. For people like Frost, they normally couldn't get their hands on ice essence. Now that they saw one, they would pay any price to get it. After all, this thing could increase the power of her innate skills by 2 or 3 times. It could even give her some special effects. She was already a 7th phase ruler. Just like Consort Yu, it was extremely difficult for her to increase her power. She didn't want to let go of any opportunity. Long Yu didn't know how many ice essences Frost had obtained from her 7 innate skills, but it definitely wasn't full. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a need to fight over it. When the black-clothed youth bid 13 million, Frost's eyebrows slightly furrowed. She then glanced at the black-clothed youth. 14 million. Frost continued to bid. This price definitely exceeded the original price of the ice essence. However, there was too much demand in the Demigod Academy and too little of it. It was normal for the price to rise a bit. Even though the Demigod Academy was split into 2 factions, it was clear that the black-clothed youth wouldn't give in to Frost. Even if he was a member of Frost's faction, there were some things that the students of the Demigod Academy wouldn't give in no matter what. After all, everyone was a genius and no one was willing to give in. Splitting into 2 factions was just for competition and to encourage the students to work harder. Thus, the black-clothed youth's lips curled up. He glanced at Frost. 15 million. If you raise the price again, I'll give up. It looked like 15 million was the black-clothed youth's limit. Who knew if it was because he only had these army merits or if he didn't want to pay a higher price for the ice essence. In any case, to Long Yu, this situation was exactly what he wanted. Originally, he wanted to sell the ice essence and exchange it for the metal heavenly spirit source. He didn't think that the price of the ice essence would surpass the metal heavenly spirit source. Then I won't be polite. 16 million. Frost lightly laughed. She felt as if she had won. 16 million to buy an ice essence wasn't a good deal, but this ice essence was very important to her. As long as she could obtain this frost essence, her 7 innate god's fruits would all be strengthened. This was the 7th frost essence she needed. After all, Frost had been in the Demigod Academy for such a long time. She had almost reached the point where she couldn't improve anymore, unless she stepped into the demigod realm. That was why she urgently needed this ice essence. Once she gave it up, she didn't know how long it would take for her to find another one. The 6 ice essences that she had previously obtained were obtained by going alone to some extremely cold places in the territory of the Ice God clan. She had experienced countless life and death situations before finally obtaining them, and it had taken her several years. It wouldn't be easy to get one more now. Unfortunately, we haven't given up yet. Just when Frost thought that victory was in her grasp, a voice suddenly rang out. It was the braided youth from the Imperial Wind faction, Qing Qilinjade. Qing Qilinjade was wearing a tight black suit. He stood up and laughed. Since Tian Qingxue has joined our faction, we must give her a greeting gift. This ice essence doesn't look bad. 17 million. I'll pay for it. As soon as Qing Qilinjade finished speaking, Even Long Yu was a bit surprised. This guy was actually a tycoon. 17 million, under normal circumstances, was enough to buy 2 power essences. But now, he was using it to buy an ice essence. Moreover, he was buying it for someone else. He had guts. When Qil and Jade said this, not only Long Yu, but everyone else was also a bit surprised. Frost didn't need to be said. Originally, she thought that victory was in her grasp and that no one would compete with her. She didn't think that this idiot Qil and Jade would jump out. Tian Qingxue and Tian Qingma, the twin demons, were also shocked. They didn't think that someone would be willing to buy something for them. To be honest, they couldn't refuse something like this. However, they couldn't take advantage of him either. At the very most, they could just return it to Qil and Jade after they had enough battle merits. So, Tian Qingxue and Tian Qingma didn't say anything. They only nodded gratefully at Qil and Jade. The ice essence was indeed very important to Tian Qingxue. Long Yu looked at Tian Qingxue and understood what she was thinking. If someone was selling a shadow essence, Long Yu would definitely want it. After all, it could make him stronger by a lot. As long as there was hope, no one would give up. Because of this, Long Yu was even happier. Because both sides were determined to get it, the price would definitely increase. To him, the seller, this was definitely a good thing. On top of that, Long Yu thought that Tian Qingxue still had a water element Holy Spirit source. If the price was high enough, he might be able to get it. In a situation where there was only one choice, of course Long Yu would choose the metal element Holy Spirit source. However, if he could get both, Long Yu still wanted to fight for it. A water element Holy Spirit source, whether it was for Red Oriole or someone else, was an extremely useful treasure. In terms of absolute value, it was even higher than a metal element Holy Spirit source because there were more people who needed it. When Qil and Jade made a bid, Frost was a little surprised. However, she didn't show any signs of anger. After all, this was an auction and the highest bidder won. That was the rule. Even if she was the leader of a faction, she couldn't mess around. Then, 18 million, Frost said calmly. Frost calmly said, from now on, this bidding war was going to be a competition between factions. Quite a few people on the field were starting to feel like swords were being drawn and bows were being pulled. Brother Qil and Jade bid 17 million. I will add another 2 million for our faction's newcomers. This ice essence is something we need to fight for, Yufeng said calmly. Yufeng calmly spoke from the side with a calm and composed smile on his face. With the addition of 2 million, the total price had reached 19 million. It could be said to be an absolutely high price. Perhaps Yufeng wanted to let others see the Imperial Wind faction's wealth and ability to help newcomers. At the very least, this way, the newcomers would feel a sense of belonging to their faction. Don't underestimate something like a sense of belonging. Once it was deeply rooted, it would be a great help to the Imperial Wind faction in the future. Seeing the other side do this, Frost faction couldn't hold back either. However, it was a pity that the other side could use this method to help the newcomers. Frost's side couldn't do the same. This was because Frost was the leader of the faction. If she wanted to buy something, she couldn't ask someone else in the faction to pay for it, right? 20 million. Luckily, Frost didn't even blink. She continued to bid. She pursed her lips and seemed to be smiling. She wanted to see just how far the other side could go. I will add another 2 million. On the side of the Imperial Wind faction, a tall and sturdy middle-aged Yao cultivator stood up. One look, and you could tell that he had a bold and unrestrained personality. He laughed loudly as he walked to Qil and Jade and Yufeng's side. He took out another 2 million and raised the total price to 21 million. To tell the truth, Long Yu had never seen an auction like this before. However, he was extremely happy on the inside. With such a high price, it would be best if the other side competed even more fiercely. That way, he would be able to get even more resources. Over at the Demigod Academy, there were a lot of resources that couldn't be found in the outside world. Even the headquarters of the Battlefield Army only had a small amount of resources. This was because all of the best resources in the Battlefield Army were for the Demigod Academy. Demigods were the biggest reason why the humans and Yao were able to stand tall in this galaxy. As long as there was one more demigod, the humans and Yao would have a much greater advantage on the battlefield against the outsiders. Because of this, it was normal for the resources to be concentrated in the Demigod Academy. 22 million. Frost's expression didn't change. It could be said that she had to get this ice essence, unless it was beyond her abilities. Thankfully, she still had a lot of army merits on her, so this was far from her limit. I will add another 2 million. The total is 23 million. On the side of the Imperial Wind faction, another person spoke up. The price was once again raised to a new height. This scene made the twin Yao newcomer's face full of emotion. Who would have thought that so many people would be willing to pay for them right after they entered this faction? This really made them feel a sense of belonging. Of course, they didn't want to take advantage of others. They would definitely have to pay back later. But no matter what, this scene really did make them feel moved. 24 million. Frost still didn't panic. Even though this price was already double the original price of the ice essence, it still didn't move Frost. Longyu looked at Frost and suddenly had a thought. This Frost, isn't she a bit too crafty? If I'm not wrong, she's raising the price maliciously. In the end, I'll be the one to benefit. Longyu suddenly thought of this. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. Even at this price, as long as the Imperial Wind faction bought it, then the one to benefit would be him, Longyu. In other words, he would be a member of Frost faction. In the Demigod Academy, there wasn't a single idiot. Longyu casually glanced at Imperial Wind faction's expression. Seeing that guy's expression was also calm, he knew that Imperial Wind faction definitely knew what Frost was planning. However, he didn't stop her. This was because for the Imperial Wind faction, this was also something beneficial. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.